After years of torment, Yuan King contracted a severe illness and didn't have much time left. On this particular day, her concubine-born sister, who had stepped on Yuan King to climb the ranks but had not yet been officially crowned imperial noble consort, came to visit her. "Oh, sister, you're still sick. With an illness this severe, I'm afraid your days are numbered." Yuan King looked at her sister's luxurious clothes and frowned. What a rare guest. What brings the imperial noble consort here? Zhao Sulan walked over, smiling radiantly as she lifted Yuan King's chin. "Thank you for the compliment, sister. It truly is a shame. You, the legitimate daughter, were supposed to enter the palace as a consort and enjoy endless wealth. What a pity you had an accident. As your younger sister, I had no choice but to take your place, enter the palace, and become the imperial noble consort." Yuan King gently patted her sister's hand. She didn't feel much toward Sulan's arrogance. Back when the new emperor ascended the throne and held the palace draft, Yuan King had accidentally fallen into the water and been rescued by Shu Su King, the heir to the Qingyuan marquis. For a woman to be publicly embraced by a man who wasn't family ruined her reputation. It made entering the palace impossible. Left with no choice, she married Shu Su King. But she never expected him to be so promiscuous, continuing to fool around with other women even after they were married. Now that she was gravely ill, he didn't care at all, leaving her to fend for herself. She could only blame her own bad luck. Yuan King calmly issued an eviction order. "If your highness has no other business, please leave." Looking at the dying Yuan King, Sulan wore the kindest smile imaginable. "Don't chase me away, sister. I haven't even gotten to the main event yet. I came here specifically to give you a gift." She waved at the guard standing nearby. A guard stepped forward carrying a wrapped bundle. Suddenly, a severed head, its eyes still wide open in a dead stare, rolled out and stopped right beneath Yuan King's bed. Staring at her own grandfather's head, Yuan King's mental defenses completely collapsed. Her grandfather, who loved her so much, who was so gentle, how could this happen? Seeing her older sister crying in absolute despair, Sulan laughed even harder. "Sister is too sick to see the old general off on his final journey, so I specifically brought his head to you. Are you happy? It's all that old man's fault for being so biased. Why were you the only one allowed to enter the palace? I begged him for so long, and he actually said I lacked moral character and didn't deserve to go. Excuses. Wasn't it just because I was born to a concubine? But in the end, I was the one who made it into the palace. So I just blew a little breeze into the emperor's ear, whispering that the old general seemed to be plotting treason. And guess what? The emperor praised me for choosing justice over family and immediately ordered their execution. He truly is my good husband." Hearing this, Yuan King completely understood. The culprit behind her family's ruin was standing right in front of her. Like a mad woman, she lunged forward, grabbing Sulan by the throat, wanting to kill her. Unfortunately, her frail, sickly body couldn't support her killing intent. Instead, Sulan easily slapped her away. "Kill me? Sister, you are still so naive even now. Did you really think your fall into the water was an accident? Your good best friend, Fu Leli, was terrified of having an extra rival in the palace. She rushed to cooperate with me, pushing you into the water to stop you from being drafted." Yuan King snapped her head up. "You planned all of this?" Sulan chuckled smugly. "I did. I wanted to watch you, the beloved legitimate daughter, fall straight into hell, along with your relatives. Now let me give you one final gift. Your husband asked me to tell you, the heir's wife has committed adultery, failed to uphold a woman's virtue, and is hereby divorced. You have nothing to do with each other anymore." A divorce letter fluttered lightly to the ground. Only then did Yuan King realize that this sister of hers, despite being the imperial noble consort, was secretly involved with her husband. A scandal like that was enough to cost Sulan her life, but Yuan King had no way to use it against her. Sulan had already ordered the guards to throw her out. Yuan King realized how foolishly naive she had been. It was only in this final moment that she saw her sister's true colors. Sulan had always been jealous of her status as the legitimate daughter, harboring deep malice, constantly plotting just to steal the consort position. And Yuan King had been kept in the dark the entire time, inadvertently causing her whole family to be killed. Like a stray dog stripped of all dignity, she was dragged all the way to the gates of the Marquis estate. Using the very last ounce of her strength, she screamed to the heavens, "Heaven's justice is clear and karma will come. Today I spill my blood here. I will become a vengeful ghost, drinking your blood and eating your flesh. I will haunt you every day so you know no peace. The imperial power will fall, and this will not end for all eternity." As her words fell before the guards could step forward, she threw herself headfirst into the stone pillar at the estate's gate. Blood splattered on the spot. Memories flashed before her eyes like a speeding carriage. Sister, news just came from the border. Eldest brother is missing. It's likely he didn't survive. Sister, mother took her own life. If only she had begged me just once, I wouldn't have been so cruel. Sister, the emperor has raided the general's estate. He declared the general guilty of treason. The entire family is to be executed. That burning hatred consumed her. Only one word remained in her mind: revenge. You destroyed my family. I will make you all die. Hatred surged to her head, and Yuan King suddenly opened her eyes. Her eyes were bloodshot and she was covered in cold sweat. Miss? A familiar voice sounded by her ear. Yuan King slightly turned her head, looking at the person in front of her. She froze. Didn't my maid Sanian die? Suddenly a possibility struck her. She sat up abruptly and grabbed her maid's hand. Sanian, what year and month is it right now? Sanian looked a bit confused but answered honestly, Miss, it is the 16th year of Jia King. It is early spring. Yuan King quickly touched her own face. It was soft and smooth. I've returned to the past, to the year I was 16. Sanian smiled and helped Yuan King up from the bed. Miss, why does your face look so pale? Did you have a nightmare? Yuan King smiled and shook her head. No. She thought to herself, although I don't know exactly what happened, since heaven has given me a second chance at life, I will definitely cherish it. I will protect my family. I will not repeat the same mistakes. Right at that moment, another familiar voice came from nearby. Yuan King, you're awake. The peach blossoms in the back courtyard of Goen Temple are in full bloom. Let's go admire them together. The person arriving was her close childhood friend, Fu Leli. Looking at this girl, those chaotic memories flooded Yuan King's mind again. Her best friend, simply afraid that they might compete in the palace, allied with Zhao Sulan to frame her and push her into the water. And it happened today, in the Peach Blossom Grove. In this life, I will absolutely never marry that playboy heir again. Since you want to play mind games with me, I will beat you at your own game. I will personally sever these ropes trying to bind my fate. She pretended to know nothing, linking arms with the other girl and smiling just like before. Look at the peach blossoms. Sounds great. I love peach blossoms the most. Knowing her toxic best friend's true colors, Yuan King played along and went to the back mountain with her. Zhao Sulan, who had been waiting in the shadows early on, pretended to bump into them. She walked up asking, Sister, Miss Fu, where are you two heading? May I join you? Seeing her enemy again, Yuan King's hatred peaked. But she didn't want to end them so easily. She needed them to experience 100 times the pain she felt. Forcing down that intense hatred, she affectionately linked arms with Sulan. Of course, my good sister. Looking closely, your eyes are so beautiful. Can I dig them out? Yuan King flashed Sulan an innocent, harmless smile. The words were incredibly malicious, yet she said them so sweetly. Sulan looked at Yuan King in shock, a strange feeling creeping into her heart. Something wasn't right. Why would she say something like that? Ignoring her stiffness, Yuan King reached out and gently traced Sulan's neck. Then, her fingertips moved upward, lightly trailing across Sulan's cheek. This skin isn't bad either. Yuan King smiled, her tone entirely serious. Sulan suddenly felt that the person in front of her had become exceptionally eerie. Feeling a bit scared, she tremblingly called out, Second sister! Seeing this, Yuan King withdrew her hand and smiled brightly. Just a joke. Why are you so easily spooked? Weren't we going to the back mountain? Let's go. She then took the lead, walking ahead. In her heart, she thought, Sulan, this time, I'm going to play with you slowly. Don't worry, I will make you wish you were dead. The remaining two exchanged glances. Fu Leli whispered to Sulan, Is it just me, or is Yuan King acting a bit off today? Sulan reassured her, Don't panic. No matter what, today's plan cannot fail. Both of them brushed off that weird feeling and hurried to catch up. When they were nearing the riverbank, Yuan King let Leli hold her arm, walking step by step toward the abyss from her memories. She listened as Leli hypocritically said sickening things. Sister, it's so beautiful here, isn't it? But once we enter the palace, we won't have this kind of freedom anymore. If I had known, I would have had my mother arrange a marriage for me sooner. I don't want to enter that giant cage of a palace. Just as Leli was preparing to push her into the water, Yuan King suddenly turned around and grabbed Lily's hands. Smiling radiantly, she said, "You don't want to enter the palace? You want to marry another man?" Lily, still maintaining her fake persona, hummed in agreement. "Yes." Yuan King simply said, "Then I will grant your wish." With a sudden, violent shove, she pushed her. Caught completely off guard, Lily fell straight in. Unable to swim, Lily thrashed in the water, screaming for help. Yuan King stood motionless on the bank, watching. Although the crisis of being forced to marry the playboy heir had been resolved, she knew she couldn't let her guard down. Sulan was stunned by this turn of events. She hesitated for a second before moving to save her, but as soon as she moved, Yuan King grabbed her hand. Her tone was chilling, radiating killing intent. "Don't you dare!" Just then, another splash sounded not far away. Yuan King glanced over and smiled. Perfect. Just like in her memories, the playboy heir had arrived to rescue someone. What a great calculation. It was just a pity that the Yuan King of today was no longer the Yuan King of the past. She let go of Sulan's hand, giving her a slight push forward, and chuckled. This is only the beginning. Standing coldly on the bank, she watched her sister panic. Sulan had missed the optimal window for rescue. It was too late now. The plan had failed. In the lotus pond, the playboy heir successfully rescued Fu Leli. Only at that moment did he realize he had the wrong person. It wasn't Zhao Yuan King. He tried to quietly slip away, but the primal survival instinct of a drowning person caused Leli to cling to him tightly. "Don't leave me!" The heir couldn't break free at all. Just then, a chorus of voices approached from nearby. What happened? Out of the corner of her eye, Yuan King saw a group of people approaching. She smirked. Ah, right. How could she forget? The perfectly arranged group of witnesses Sulan had prepared. Well then, I'll help you finish acting out this play. Unwilling to accept the failure of her plan, Sulan quickly spoke up to frame her. Sister, you are too unreasonable. How could you push her? She felt there was still a chance. As long as she could tarnish Yuan King's reputation, it would still prevent her from entering the palace. Unexpectedly, Yuan King swung her hand, landing a solid slap right across Sulan's face. Since you love acting so much, I'll play along. Sulan looked at her in disbelief. You hit me? Feigning fury, Yuan King shouted, Third sister, you have gone too far. No matter how dissatisfied you are with Leli, you shouldn't have resorted to such a vicious move. The spring water is freezing. If something happens to Leli, I won't forgive you. By now, the Duchess of Jin had reached them. Sulan, seeing her own arranged backup arrive, suddenly realized Yuan King was framing her in reverse. She couldn't let this accusation stick, or she would be ruined. She opened her mouth to defend herself. But Yuan King landed another resounding slap. Third sister, do you really think I know nothing? Yuan King's words held a double meaning. Sulan, who already had a guilty conscience, forgot to defend herself. She froze, a sudden thought rising in her mind. Could it be? Yuan King already knows about my plot with Leli? How is that possible? At that moment, the playboy heir brought Leli ashore. The Duchess of Jin looked at the dripping wet pair and frowned slightly. Then she glanced at Sulan with evident disgust. Did you do this? Sulan finally snapped back to reality. Sensing the glaring look, she stiffened and desperately grabbed the Duchess's hand. It wasn't me! It was second sister! Madam, you have to believe me! The Duchess shook off Sulan's hand, her gaze growing even more disgusted. Still making excuses? Seeing this, Sulan's heart turned completely cold. It was over. Yuan King had struck first, and the Duchess had already formed her preconceived notion. Whatever Sulan said now just sounded like weak excuses. The Duchess ordered 2 maids to help Leli back so she wouldn't catch a cold. Then she looked at Shu Suqing. Lord Shu, you should go change your clothes as well. Shu Suqing had a million questions, but for now, he could only take his leave. This drama between girls would naturally be settled by their respective families later. The Duchess clearly didn't intend to overstep, leading the crowd away. With the group gone, only Sulan and Yuan King remained. The facade of sisterly harmony was completely torn down today. Sulan dropped the act. Second sister, what ruthless methods. Yuan King scoffed. Still pales in comparison to your scheming little sister. Sulan felt that Yuan King was incredibly bizarre today. Her plan had failed, and her reputation was damaged. But facing Yuan King right now, an inexplicable sense of reason told Sulan she shouldn't stay here any longer. She quickly flicked her sleeves and hurried away. Watching her enemy flee in a panic, Yuan King felt a rush of satisfaction. It was as if she finally realized all of this was real. For whatever reason, she had actually returned to the past. How wonderful. Since she was doing it all over again, they couldn't blame her for being ruthless. In her past life, her enemies succeeded. In her first battle after rebirth, she won beautifully. Staring at the retreating figure, Yuan King's eyes glinted. "This is just the beginning, Sulan. You have plenty more coming." She pulled her thoughts back and inspected the rocks by the river. Just as she suspected, they had been tampered with. A thick layer of moss made it incredibly easy to slip. The back mountain of Guowen Temple had many pilgrims. If someone accidentally slipped because of this, and she knew about it but didn't clean it up, it would become her sin. Efficiently, she took out a handkerchief, dipped it in water, and meticulously wiped away the slippery substance. Only after finishing did she stand up, breathing a sigh of relief. Just as she packed up and was about to leave, her gaze swept to the side and she unexpectedly locked eyes with someone. Two people were standing in the peach orchard not far away. Because the angle was somewhat secluded, she hadn't noticed them earlier. She had no idea how long they had been standing there, or how much of the show they had watched. And the identity of the person gave her a slight headache. This was the legendary, unpredictable, and overwhelmingly powerful commander of the Eastern Depot, Zhuang Li. He firmly controlled the 24 bureaus of the Inner Palace. The power in his hands was vast enough to rival Emperor Ming'an. He was a man of deep, calculating thoughts, and one absolutely could not afford to make an enemy of him. However, she had no real interest in him, and figured she wouldn't have any further ties with him. Since they ran into each other, Yuan King had no choice but to step forward and curtsy. "Greetings, Lord Zhuang." Zhuang Li smiled. "Second, Miss Zhao is quite interesting." Yuan King was slightly startled. She didn't know how much Zhuang Li had seen, but she knew very well that this was not the time to socialize with someone so dangerously unfathomable. So, she made an excuse to slip away. "The scenery of the peach orchard at Guowen Temple is unparalleled. I won't disturb your lordship's elegant mood any longer." It was the first time Zhuang Li had met a woman who wasn't afraid of him, yet showed no interest in clinging to him. His interest grew. He nodded. "Go." Yuan King left immediately. Zhuang Li stared at her retreating back for quite a while. Seeing this, Zhuang Li's hidden guard, Chen Mo, couldn't contain his curiosity. "Lord, are you interested in the second miss of the Zhao family?" Zhuang Li withdrew his gaze, replying in a very good mood. "She is somewhat interesting." Chen Mo didn't understand. Zhao Yuan King pushed someone into the water first, then framed her concubine-born sister. Her character is so despicable. This subordinate doesn't understand. Hearing this, Zhuang Li rarely bothered to offer a hint. Giving someone a taste of their own medicine, understand? Chen Mo shook his head. "You explained it so clearly, but I still don't get it." Zhuang Li gave Chen Mo an unreadable look and spat out one sentence. "A brain is a wonderful thing to have." Giving up on saving Chen Mo's intellect, he changed the subject. "Is she the one Chizeli wants to select for the palace?" Chen Mo replied, "Yes." In his heart, he thought, only our lord would dare call the current emperor by his real name. He then leaned in and whispered, "If Zhao Yuan King enters the palace as a consort, the Zhao family will likely be swayed by the emperor. That will suppress our power. Should we sabotage this?" Hearing this, Zhuang Li simply said indifferently, "No need. Let's head back." Chen Mo silently followed. Whatever the lord says goes. Meanwhile, after falling into the water, Fu Leli caught a severe chill and remained unconscious. Since it involved Zhao Sulan, old Madame Zhao stepped in and ordered Yuan King to keep a close eye on the situation. Just as Yuan King was planning how to deal with Sulan, Sulan burst into the room. Before Sulan could even open her mouth, the old madam sternly ordered the servants to escort the third miss back to the estate. The third miss is full of filial piety and has volunteered to go to the ancestral hall to pray for her ancestors. Seeing that her grandmother wasn't even giving her a chance to defend herself, Sulan knew her current situation was bleak. She could only swallow her bad luck and plot for the future. Feeling incredibly stifled, she replied, "Yes." After the old madam left with her entourage, Yuan King ignored Sulan's resentful glare, shut the door, and went back to her room. Sulan's maid, Chi Hong, tried to comfort her. "Miss, once Miss Fu wakes up, the truth will come out." Sulan scoffed at the words. Even if my name is cleared, grandmother would never let this incident ruin Zhao Yuanking's reputation. No matter what, I lost this round. Hearing this, the maid looked worried. Then what should we do, miss? A vicious light flashed in Sulan's eyes. If I don't ruin Zhao Yuanking, I have no face to enter the inner palace. I miscalculated this time. But the final victor hasn't been decided yet. I will definitely return today's humiliation to Zhao Yuanking 100-fold. An hour later, Fu Leli woke up. Opening her eyes to see Yuanking, she grew agitated and immediately began to accuse her. You actually pushed me. Yuanking smiled cheerfully and patted Leli's hand. Yes. Not only did I push you into the water, I even helped facilitate a marriage for you. Didn't you say you didn't want to enter the palace? Congratulations, your wish came true. The wife of the Qingyuan Marquis heir, that status isn't too shabby for you. Leli's eyes widened in shock. The trashy heir she had prepared for Yuanking had landed right in her own lap. She had tried to steal a chicken only to lose her rice. Yet showing no guilt or remorse, she blamed Yuanking. Zhao Yuanking, how could you be so malicious? Yuanking didn't get angry. Instead, she laughed. To help my good sister get her wish, what does it matter if I carry a malicious reputation? Skin-to-skin contact witnessed by everyone. This matter is set in stone. Leli, remember this. The one who pushed you wasn't me. It was Zhao Sulan. It was a blatant threat. Did Leli understand? A maid happened to walk in with medicine. Yuanking voluntarily stood up to make room, playing the role of the perfect best friend, comforting Leli from the side. You should look on the bright side. Although the Qingyuan Marquis estate isn't what it used to be, it's still a Marquis estate. Heir Shu is a handsome talent. It's a good destination for you. Leli was so infuriated by Yuanking's words she was about to spit blood. She forcefully swallowed the curses she wanted to scream, forcing a strained smile. I really must thank you, Yuanking. She knew very well that her path to the palace draft was ruined, and her marriage to Shu Suking was a done deal. The Fu family couldn't compare to the Zhao family. Making an enemy of the Zhao family right now was not a wise move. It was better to maintain a superficial friendship with Yuanking. There might be some benefits to reap later. Yuanking knew this toxic friend of hers would make the practical choice. Seeing her half dead with rage but completely helpless put Yuanking in a great mood. Reminding her to rest well, Yuanking left. Lying in bed, Leli's eyes were red with fury. She couldn't say a word and was suffocating with frustration. Afterward, they packed up and returned to the Zhao estate. Looking at the familiar environment, scenes from her past life flashed through her mind, leaving her with complex emotions. But before she could wallow in melancholy for long, a familiar voice rang in her ears. You said you were going to go in temple for some peace and quiet, but look at all the chaos you've stirred up. Seeing her living, breathing mother again, Yuanking finally couldn't hold back her tears. She cried out, Mother! Madame Zhao's heart ached as she wiped away her daughter's tears. What's wrong? Who bullied you? Tell Mother. Mother will get revenge for you. Don't cry, don't cry. Mother is here. Feeling her mother's love once again, Yuanking cried so hard she couldn't speak. She threw herself into her mother's arms, holding her tightly, refusing to let go. Madame Zhao found it very strange. Her daughter hadn't been a crier since she was little. Exactly how much of a grievance did she suffer to cry this heartbreakingly? She looked at her daughter's personal maid. What exactly happened at Goan Temple? How was my daughter wronged? The maid, Sanian, recounted how Zhao Sulan and Fu Leli conspired to set up the young miss. Hearing this, Madame Zhao slammed her palm onto the embroidery table in a fury. Outrageous! Seeing her mother so full of life and energy, Yuanking felt a surge of joy. She reached up, wiping the tears from her eyes, and grasped her mother's hand. Mother, aren't I perfectly fine? I was just feeling a little emotional seeing you. In truth, I saw through their schemes early on. I didn't suffer at all, did I? Thinking about how the incident ended, Madame Zhao felt a bit better. Even so, Mother cannot let them off lightly. Sulan is right under our noses, so there's no rush. But as for the Fu family, do you want Mother to go mess up Leli's marriage to the Qingyuan Marquis estate? No one knew better than Yuanking just how much of a piece of trash the Qingyuan Marquis heir was. Leli marrying him would guarantee a life of suffering. She quickly shook her head, giving her mother a hint. Forcing two unwilling parties into a terrible marriage was exactly what she wanted. Madame Zhao instantly understood and took on a slightly gloating tone. Then Mother will go add some fuel to the fire and help push this marriage along. Although the water incident had been completely altered, Yuan King didn't dare relax. Because she avoided that scandal, it meant she would still be eligible to enter the palace as a consort. In her past life, all the suffering had been orchestrated by Sulan behind the scenes. But the direct enforcer who slaughtered her family was Emperor Mingan, a foolish, unreasoning tyrant. She absolutely refused to enter the palace and marry him. She couldn't go to the draft, but she couldn't let Sulan go either. Right now, the only person capable of changing everything and standing toe-to-toe with Emperor Mingan was Zhuang Li. Originally, she hadn't wanted to get involved with him again, but since he was the only one who could rival the emperor, she had to find a way to latch onto him to cut off the Zhao family's path to the palace. So the next day, riding in a carriage bearing the Zhao family crest, she marched openly and grandly to the Eastern Depot. She personally handed a box of pastries to the depot guards at the door. "I made these pastries myself. Please, my lord, pass them on to Lord Zhuang for me." The guard looked bewildered, almost suspecting he was dreaming. The precious jewel of Grand Tutor Zhao's family was delivering pastries to the commander? He tentatively said, "Miss Zhao, please wait a moment. This lowly one will go announce you." While waiting, Yuan King didn't stay idle. She struck up a conversation with the other guards, asking about Zhuang Li's preferences. The guard looked troubled. "Miss Zhao, please don't make things difficult for this lowly one. How would I know about the commander's affairs?" He mumbled under his breath. "Even if I did, I wouldn't dare say." Yuan King was mentally prepared for this. Looking somewhat shy, she said, "It was my haste that made me misstep. I had a brief encounter with Lord Zhuang at Guoan Temple a few days ago. I'm not afraid of you laughing at me, but ever since I was young, I've loved good-looking people. After seeing Lord Zhuang..." She trailed off, leaving the rest unsaid. Seeing her shy demeanor, the guards instantly grasped her unspoken meaning and their eyes widened in disbelief. "Miss Zhao fancies our commander?" Yuan King shyly nodded her head. This scene at the door quickly reached Zhuang Li's ears. For a rare moment, his expression froze. He asked for confirmation. "Zhao Yuan King said she fancies this commander?" Hearing the affirmative answer, Zhuang Li curled his lips into a smile. "Interesting. Invite her in. I want to see exactly how she fancies me." Soon, Yuan King was escorted into the Eastern Depot. At the same time, the news that the legitimate daughter of the Zhao family had fallen in love at first sight with the eunuch commander spread through the capital like wildfire. Seeing Zhuang Li again, Yuan King still felt unsure. This was a dangerous gamble, but with the draft looming, the only person who could suppress Emperor Mingan was this moody commander. Once she entered the palace, she would inevitably end up on the opposite side of Zhuang Li anyway, so she would offend him eventually. It was better to act now. After all, the enemy of an enemy is a friend. She figured she had a decent chance of success. Upon seeing her, Zhuang Li cut straight to the chase. "I hear Miss Zhao fell in love with this commander at first sight." Yuan King responded with poise and grace. "Yes, I fell in love with Lord Zhuang at first sight. I am willing to keep my purity for Lord Zhuang until death." Zhuang Li stared fixedly at Yuan King, as if seeing right through her. "Giving up the position of an imperial consort to keep your purity for this commander? Miss Zhao is truly thoughtful." He heavily emphasized the last three words. Both were smart people. They understood the underlying message perfectly. Yuan King replied sincerely, "My family only hopes I can find someone I am destined to be with. So do I. Wealth and glory vanish in an instant. They are not what I seek." Zhuang Li chuckled and leaned back in his chair. "What does that have to do with this commander?" Yuan King paused. She realized Zhuang Li wasn't very interested in allying with her. She then smiled. "Naturally, it has nothing to do with Lord Zhuang. My actions today have already overstepped the bounds. I won't do it again. I will simply keep my feelings for Lord Zhuang hidden in my heart." Zhuang Li glanced at her, said nothing more, and ordered the guards to see the guest out. Yuan King left with the guards. Before coming, she had considered various outcomes and was prepared to offend one side. As soon as Yuan King left, Chen Mo, who had been hiding in the shadows, couldn't help but jump out. "Lord, when did the second Miss Zhao take a liking to you? Actually, she's quite pretty. It wouldn't hurt for you to take her in." A noble lady falling for a eunuch? If Chizeli were as stupid as you and couldn't figure out her true intentions, that would be wonderful. Zhuang Li gently rubbed the teacup in his hand, despairing at his guard's intellect. With Chizeli's paranoid nature, even if he couldn't figure out her intent, He would never dare keep someone associated with this commander near him. Zhao Yuanking's move was actually quite brilliant. At that moment, Yuanqing had already returned to the Zhao estate. Sanyan truly couldn't understand why her young miss would publicly declare love for a eunuch. She could only imagine how the entire capital would mock her. In a good mood, Yuanqing explained her intentions to her loyal maid. I just wanted to tell the man in the palace that I have no desire to enter. If he forces the issue, the Zhao family will have no choice but to defect to Zhuangli's faction. Emperor Ming'an shouldn't be stupid enough to miss that. After all, who would genuinely fall in love with a eunuch at first sight and vow to stay pure for him? This incident doesn't do much physical damage to Emperor Ming'an, but it's an extreme insult. The imperial consort he handpicked turning around and confessing her love to his mortal enemy, the eunuch? He is weak right now and won't want to make an enemy of the Zhao family. He's probably fuming right now. Just thinking about it makes me happy. Halfway there, a servant of Yuanqing's father intercepted them. Second miss, the master wants to see you in the study. Yuanqing wasn't surprised. Hardly any court officials liked the dictatorship of the eunuchs. Her father was alone in the study right now. Since she had tangled herself up with Zhuangli, it was obvious how furious he would be. But she was confident she could persuade him. She headed straight to her father's study. Inside, besides her father, was concubine Wen, Sulan's biological mother. One look at concubine Wen and Yuanqing knew she was about to start trouble. Sure enough, as soon as she saw Yuanqing, concubine Wen started in. Oh, my second miss. Has lard clouded your heart to make you this foolish? You are a proper, legitimate daughter. What business do you have getting mixed up with a eunuch? Sulan didn't know better, but are you going to join her in kneeling in the ancestral hall? Saying this, she looked at Master Zhao, who had been enduring this for a while. Master, please don't be too angry. The second miss is just temporarily confused. She's young and doesn't know any better. It's normal for her to make a mistake in judgment. Yuanqing scoffed. Third sister lacked moral character and was punished by grandmother. Does concubine Wen have a problem with my moral character? Concubine Wen was choked by the retort. Master Zhao glared angrily. Do you think you've done something great? Yuanqing immediately reeled in her attitude and stood obediently to be scolded. Seeing his daughter like this, Master Zhao had a belly full of reprimands but didn't know which one to start with. He pointed a finger at her for a long time before finally squeezing out, "You insolent child!" Seeing this, concubine Wen quickly added fuel to the fire. Miss, look how angry you've made your father. Don't just stand there, hurry up and admit your mistake. Yuanqing stared coldly at concubine Wen. What does this have to do with you? That intimidating aura stunned the two people sitting above her. The past Yuanqing, though she disliked these concubines and illegitimate daughters, had always maintained perfect etiquette. Her speaking so bluntly and domineeringly now caught Master Zhao off guard. When he recovered, he didn't scold her. Instead, he asked with concern, Yuanqing, were you triggered by something? Concubine Wen had been eagerly waiting for Master Zhao to scold Yuanqing and back her up. But after Yuanqing spoke to her like that, the old man was actually showing concern for his daughter. She was so angry her face nearly twisted. Yuanqing thought to herself, since you love acting, concubine Wen, my acting skills aren't bad either. She slightly softened her expression. I was feeling frustrated over the palace draft and spoke a bit too directly. I hope concubine Wen won't take offense. Concubine Wen couldn't find a flaw on the surface, but inwardly she fumed. Wretched girl, I won't let you off easy. Completely oblivious to the underlying currents, Master Zhao sighed and comforted Yuanqing. It's not over yet. Perhaps there will be a turning point. Concubine Wen quickly chimed in. Master, although Yuanqing's actions were foolish, spreading this around will damage her reputation. Will the person in the palace give up the idea of letting Yuanqing enter the palace because of this? Her words sounded comforting, but they were actually pointing out the reality to Master Zhao. She thought this would drag the Zhao family down to be punished, and the old man definitely wouldn't sit idly by. Yuanqing, just wait for your punishment. But she was disappointed once again. Master Zhao agreed with the sentiment. That's true. This might turn out to be a blessing in disguise. If she can avoid the draft because of this, it's actually a good thing. Concubine Wen was frantic. What? The old man thinks it's fine if she doesn't enter the palace? Not only is he not punishing her, he's comforting her? Unwilling to give up, she continued stirring the pot. Master, what the second miss did is already known by everyone. Outsiders will probably gossip. Master Zhao finally turned his gaze to concubine Wen, but his words were a harsh reprimand. "Is it your place to interrupt?" Concubine Wen was stunned and felt deeply wronged. The one who did something wrong was fine, but she was the one getting yelled at. Master Zhao ignored her and continued comforting Yuan King. "It doesn't matter if what others say is ugly to hear. They wouldn't dare shout it in front of us anyway. If anyone dares bully you, our Zhao family isn't easily pushed around." Yuan King's heart warmed, and she smiled. "I understand, father." Master Zhao hummed and waved his hand at her. "As long as you're happy. You must be tired from going out today. Go back and rest early." Yuan King curtsied, then cast a light, mocking glance at concubine Wen, as if to say, "You jumped around for half a day just to look like a clown." She turned and left at a leisurely pace. Concubine Wen was about to explode. Confessing her love to a eunuch in public, such an absurd scandal, and it was just brushed off like this? Thinking about Sulan, who was still kneeling in the ancestral hall, concubine Wen grew even angrier. Did the Zhao family rules only apply to her and her daughter? It was simply too much. "Zhao Yuan King, I will not let you off this easily." At this moment in the imperial palace, Emperor Ming'an was flying into a rage. That Zhao Yuan King, she actually publicly declared her love for a dead eunuch. She clearly has no respect for me as the emperor. It seems I need to teach this legitimate daughter of the Zhao family a lesson. He immediately had the Empress Dowager issue an edict. Zhao Yuan King was to enter the palace the next day. Yuan King had anticipated this. After dressing up slightly, she followed the eunuch into the palace. Halfway there, her path was blocked by the 10-year-old 10th princess. The 10th princess was a proper legitimate princess, deeply favored by the late emperor, which resulted in her arrogant and domineering personality. In her past life, after Emperor Ming'an ascended the throne, he indulged the 10th princess on the surface to build a good reputation for himself, or rather, he killed her with kindness. Under Emperor Ming'an's toxic spoiling, the 10th princess committed a grave mistake and died within a year. Right now, it was obvious Emperor Ming'an was using the 10th princess to test Yuan King. Yuan King's mind raced, but on the surface, she maintained a flawless smile and perfect etiquette. This subject greets the 10th princess. May the princess be at peace. The 10th princess sized Yuan King up for a long time before asking, "You are Zhao Yuan King?" After getting an affirmative answer, her attitude became even more arrogant. "I don't like the look of you. Are you going to slap your own face, or do you want me to reward you with a slap?" Hearing this, Yuan King's expression remained unchanged, her tone calm. "May I ask what offense I have committed?" The 10th princess replied imperiously, "I don't like the look of you. That is your offense." Yuan King smiled. "If that is the case, please forgive me, but I cannot accept this punishment." Used to getting her way, the 10th princess immediately flared up, glaring angrily at Yuan King. "You dare defy my orders?" Yuan King continued to smile. "I cannot bring harm to the princess." The 10th princess was triggered by Yuan King's breezy reaction. "Harm me? Ridiculous! You all, hold her down for me. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll just have to reward you myself." The eunuchs had clearly been prepped beforehand. As soon as the princess spoke, they swarmed toward Yuan King. Yuan King revealed a hint of mockery. She thought to herself, "Emperor Ming'an isn't just trying to test me. He wants to use the 10th princess to teach me a lesson. Afterward, he can push all the blame onto her, letting her bear the reputation of being a tyrant. 2 birds with 1 stone. What a pity for him that as a descendant of generals, I've practiced martial arts since childhood. I won't fall for such amateur schemes." Seeing the eunuchs reach her, Yuan King reached out, grabbed a eunuch's wrist, and with a light twist, threw him to the ground. The ones behind him didn't escape either. In the blink of an eye, the ground at Yuan King's feet was littered with groaning men. The 10th princess hadn't expected this at all. Her eyes widened. How did this happen?" Yuan King cupped her hands with sincere respect. "I took the liberty of teaching these unruly servants a lesson on your behalf, princess. I did this for your own good." The 10th princess cried in anger. "You beat up my people and say it's for my own good? You're so good with words. Watch me personally tear your mouth apart." Having never suffered such an indignity, the 10th princess threw herself directly at Yuan King. Yuan King calmly stepped to the side, perfectly dodging her. The 10th princess dove face-first into a flower bed, eating a mouthful of dirt. Being so used to people catching her, she never expected anyone to dodge. Unable to stop her momentum, she crashed hard. The eunuchs on the ground scrambled up and clumsily rescued the 10th princess from the bushes. The 10th princess screamed in rage, "Zhao Yuan King, I'm going to kill you! Just you wait, I'll have my imperial brother teach you a lesson." With several leaves sticking out of her hair and making such empty threats, Yuan King couldn't help but laugh out loud. Seeing this, the 10th princess grew even more furious. "Zhao Yuan King, you actually dare to laugh?" Yuan King quickly hid her smile. She knew Emperor Ming'an wouldn't just use a clueless child as his vanguard. Since the 10th princess had failed, there had to be a backup plan. She was waiting for the next act. Sure enough, a moment later, a deep voice rang out. "Second Miss Zhao, this is the Imperial Palace." Hearing this voice, the 10th princess turned and threw herself into the newcomer's arms, starting to whine. "Wet nurse! She bullied me!" The wet nurse glared directly at Yuan King. The princess has a body of gold. As a subject's daughter, Second Miss Zhao completely ignored the etiquette between ruler and subject. "In your eyes, does only the Zhao family exist, and not the royal family?" Yuan King didn't panic. Instead, she smiled. "Wet nurse, there's no need to pin such a heavy accusation on me. It's precisely because I understand the rules of ruler and subject that I couldn't let the princess's character be ruined by servants harboring malicious intentions. Rather, as the princess's wet nurse failing to advise the princess properly is the true betrayal of royal grace." The wet nurse shouted, "What a sharp tongue! Since when does a mere subject's daughter have the right to dictate matters concerning the princess? If the princess's precious body is injured, how will Second Miss Zhao pay for it?" Yuan King feigned confusion. Didn't the princess trip and fall on her own? Does someone falling down and not being caught by a bystander constitute a crime? Then shouldn't you be questioning the people serving the princess? What does it have to do with me? With someone backing her up, the 10th princess started yelling again. "It's obvious you dodged on purpose. If you hadn't moved, how could I have fallen?" Yuan King calmly replied. "Why must the princess fall just because I stepped aside? Was the princess deliberately trying to ram into me? The princess is a noble lady of heavenly birth, while I am but a subject's daughter with lowly status. If the emperor and the empress dowager wish to punish me for this, I have nothing to say." The wet nurse silently noted that this Zhao Yuan King was not easy to deal with. Once Yuan King admitted to dodging, it would mean the 10th princess initiated the attack. Before Emperor Ming'an's wings were fully fledged, he would absolutely never dare randomly convict Zhao Yuan King in a logical argument. Doing so would not only make an enemy of the Zhao family, but also incite dissatisfaction among the court officials. Yuan Qing had already anticipated every scenario. Her actions were watertight, giving no one an excuse to bully her. If Emperor Ming'an truly dared to punish her, she would make sure he paid a much heavier price. The wet nurse could only resort to force, using the absolute authority of the royal family. She wanted to see how Yuan King would argue her way out of this. The princess says Second Miss Zhao bullied her, but Second Miss Zhao refuses to admit it. Are you accusing the princess of lying? Slandering the princess and showing contempt for the royal family? Can Second Miss Zhao bear the weight of this crime? Seeing the other party resorting to using status to oppress her because they lacked reason, Yuan King remained unfazed. Just as she was about to speak, a voice came from behind her. My, it seems I arrived at just the right time. A mere slave dares to wear the tiger skin of the royal family and bite people randomly? Zhuangli spoke as he strolled over leisurely. The domineering 10th princess turned into an obedient mouse the moment she saw him. The wet nurse was so terrified she dropped to her knees, trembling. This servant greets Lord Zhuang. Yuan King hadn't expected to run into Zhuangli here. In her mind, Zhuangli was always a wild card, and she never knew if it was for better or worse. She curtsied toward him. "Greetings, Lord Zhuang." Zhuangli's tall figure stood in front of Yuan King, a smile curving his lips. "Oh, if it isn't the daughter of the Zhao family, my admirer." Yuan King kept her head down, her face blushing furiously. In her heart, she grumbled, "Yes, that did happen, but there's no need to bring it up every time you see me. I'm still a young girl. I need my dignity." Seeing the girl's face turn as red as a ripe tomato, Zhuangli chuckled lightly. His gaze then drifted casually over to the wet nurse. "Did you say Second Miss Zhao was slandering the princess?" The wet nurse didn't know what Zhuangli was planning and didn't dare answer. Her entire body shook with fear. This was typical palace behavior, acting like a dog threatening others based on its master's power, bullying the weak but fearing the strong. Zhuangli looked back at Yuan King and continued, "Second Miss Zhao is my admirer. What was it you said before?" "Ah, right. You said I look good. What an honest thing to say. If you ask me, there is no one more honest than Second Miss Zhao. He turned his gaze back to the wet nurse. You say Second Miss Zhao is lying. Does that mean you are saying I don't look good? At this moment, the wet nurse wanted nothing more than to die. How were these two things even related? But she didn't dare deny it. Facing the demonic Zhuangli, she had absolutely no room to resist. She could only agree with whatever he said. It was this servant who misspoke. Everything Second Miss Zhao said is the absolute truth. Zhuangli nodded. He asked again, Then are you saying the princess is lying? Slandering a princess? Slandering the royal family? Tsk, tsk. What a crime. The wet nurse was speechless. She couldn't afford to offend either side. Yuan King saw the wet nurse wishing for death and couldn't help but curve her lips in a good mood. As expected of the widely feared Zhuangli, punishing servants effortlessly, scaring them out of their wits with just a few words. Zhuangli withdrew his gaze, toying with a strand of Yuan King's hair. He drawled lazily. I've lived for over 20 years and finally have such a talented and beautiful admirer. If my admirer were to lose a single hair or chip a fingernail, I would lose a lot of face. He snapped his head toward the wet nurse. Enough! How boring. Go receive your punishment. The wet nurse felt like she had survived a disaster. She hurriedly kowtowed in gratitude, vowing never to offend the Second Miss Zhao again, and quickly fled with the 10th princess and the trail of eunuchs. With no one else around, Zhuangli asked Yuan King, Have you practiced martial arts? From this, Yuan King was certain Zhuangli had probably watched the entire spectacle. She answered honestly, I've learned a little bit. Zhuangli nodded. It's quite lacking. I'll have Chen Mo teach you. Yuan King looked confused. Zhuangli clarified, The guard who was with me in the peach orchard. Even though his brain isn't great, his martial arts are good. Yuan King was puzzled. Why the sudden offer to teach me martial arts? Seeing Yuan King's expression, Zhuangli deliberately leaned in closer. After all, I've already put the word out. If you really end up getting hurt, I'll truly lose face. And as a person, I don't have many other virtues, but I am fiercely protective of my own. Yuan King felt a mix of emotions. When Zhuangli faced her enemies, it was incredibly satisfying. But facing him directly was nerve-wracking. Do admirers fall under the category of his own? That's really not necessary. I can protect myself. She bowed slightly. Thank you, Lord Commander. Since her rebirth, Yuan King had always hidden her emotions well. This was the first time she had shown genuine emotion on her face. Seeing how calm she was and seemingly ungreedy for his protection, Zhuangli felt an inexplicable urge to push further. There aren't many people I find interesting. Not bad. Since that's the case, it's not convenient to see the Emperor today. Let's go. I will escort you home. Yuan King raised an eyebrow. He's being this blatant? He really doesn't put the royal family in his eyes at all. If it were her past life, she definitely would have despised Zhuangli's behavior. But now, she just wanted to say, beautifully done. Having Zhuangli escort her meant she didn't have to worry about the Emperor intercepting her halfway. The benefits outweighed the risks. After Zhuangli escorted Yuan King back to the Zhao estate, he left. Yuan King couldn't quite figure out his attitude. Their encounter in the palace could be considered a coincidence, and it should have ended there. Why escort her home? Shouldn't she just play her part as the infatuated girl, while Zhuangli remained aloof, accepting nothing, rejecting nothing, completely unbothered? Shouldn't he still be the high and mighty Lord Zhuang? His actions today were truly baffling. This man was indeed unpredictable and unfathomable. Or perhaps it was because she wasn't his enemy that she felt this subtle difference. Unable to figure it out, she stopped stressing over it and stepped into the estate. She didn't notice a pair of excited eyes watching her from a distance. The legitimate daughter of the Zhao family actually meeting a man in secret, and he escorted her all the way to the gate. I want to see how you explain this to father. Thinking she had caught Yuan King in a scandal with a man, Sulan rushed forward to provoke her. Second sister is truly worthy of being a noble, legitimate daughter. First, you publicly declare your love for a eunuch, and the next moment, an unknown man is escorting you home. Yuan King, already in a bad mood, saw Sulan. Trouble comes from the mouth. Still want to kneel in the ancestral hall? Sulan remained fearless. I'm just speaking the truth. You did this in broad daylight. Is this how a noble, legitimate daughter behaves? Yuan King smiled. What does how a noble, legitimate daughter behaves have to do with you? These words pierced straight through Sulan's heart. Infuriated, Sulan snapped, "Even though I'm not the legitimate daughter, I'm still a member of the Zhao family. If you want to be shameless and disregard your reputation, don't drag the rest of us sisters down with you. Loving a eunuch, keeping company with strange men, if outsiders didn't know better, they'd think this was the Zhao family tradition." Her words sounded so righteous. Yuan King laughed in anger. A concubine's daughter lecturing a legitimate daughter, making wild accusations without investigating the truth? Is this the etiquette you've learned over the past dozen years? Sulan's sore spot was poked again, her face falling. These were the facts she could never change, but she quickly smirked. "I only spoke out of concern for you, sister. That's why I was a bit reckless with my words. Are you going to hold this against me? If so, you are far too petty for a legitimate daughter." Yuan King raised her hand and slapped Sulan hard across the face. In the past, burdened by her identity as a noble, legitimate daughter, Yuan King had always restrained herself. No matter how angry she got, for the sake of reputation and etiquette, she would let things go lightly. But now, having died once, what did it matter if she was petty? Compared to etiquette and reputation, she needed to survive. Sulan was stunned. She doesn't even care about her image as a legitimate daughter anymore? She covered her cheek, staring at Yuan King in disbelief. "You hit me?" Yuan King scoffed. "You called me petty. I'm just giving you what you asked for. Sulan, in the past, I was willing to maintain superficial harmony and not bicker with you. But from now on, you'd best not provoke me. Tuck your tail between your legs. I don't have the mood to deal with you right now, so you'd better not flaunt yourself in front of me. Otherwise, I wouldn't mind exercising a bit more of my authority as the eldest sister." Without caring what Sulan thought, Yuan King turned and walked away. Staring at Yuan King's retreating back, Sulan was furious and confused. Has Zhao Yuan King gone mad? The maid beside her seemed to pick up on something. "Miss, second miss, seems different than before. We shouldn't confront her directly anymore." Sulan immediately fired back. "Impossible. I've been slapped twice and she gets off scot-free. I can't swallow this anger." She grabbed the maid's hand and ordered her to slap her face. "Slap me until it's red." The maid didn't dare. Sulan simply grabbed the maid's hand and forced it hard against her own cheek. She grimaced in pain, but thinking of the opportunity to punish Yuan King, she firmly ordered the maid to keep slapping the same spot. When Master Zhao returned from court, he was invited to Concubine Wen's courtyard for dinner. After taking a bite, he noticed his third daughter was missing. "Where is the third miss? Why isn't she here to eat?" Concubine Wen pretended not to know and looked at a nearby nanny. The nanny stammered, "The third miss? Said she was feeling tired today and wanted to sleep for a bit. It's just..." This deliberate pause caught Master Zhao's attention perfectly. "It's just what? Stop acting weird. What happened? Tell me." The nanny then blurted out, "It's just that the third miss has a very clear handprint on her face." Master Zhao frowned. Concubine Wen, acting as if she had just heard this, stood up anxiously. "Master, let's go check on her quickly." Sulan stayed in her room. She had ordered a maid to watch the courtyard entrance early on. When she saw her father's group approaching, she quickly stood up. Chi-hong, the maid, cried out, "Second miss went too far this time. You can't just endure this anymore, miss. We have to tell the master." Putting on a tearful voice, Sulan scolded Chi-hong. "Second sister is the legitimate daughter. I was the one who lacked manners. Let's just drop this matter." Just as she finished speaking, she saw her father at the door. She hurriedly feigned panic, turning her face away and covering the slap mark with her hand. Father, why are you suddenly here?" Master Zhao had already seen the mark clearly. He pulled Sulan's hand away, staring at the red print on her face, and asked in a low voice, "Did Yuan King hit you?" Sulan shook her head. "No. It was because I have thin skin. Second sister only hit me once. She didn't use force. Besides, I was in the wrong first. I spoke out of turn and angered second sister." Master J remained expressionless, but the anger in his eyes was obvious. "What did you say?" Sulan replied, "I saw sister being escorted home by a strange man. I thought it was inappropriate and would damage her reputation, so I reminded her with a few words." Hearing this, Master Zhao angrily ordered a servant to summon the second miss. Sulan and her mother felt assured of their victory, feeling smug inside. This time they would definitely exact revenge for both old and new grudges. When Yuan King arrived, her gaze swept the room, lingering slightly on the mark on Sulan's face. She instantly understood Sulan's method this time. She had to admit, Sulan wasn't just ruthless to her enemies, she was ruthless to herself too. With a smile, she curtsied to Master Zhao. "Father, for what reason have you summoned me?" Looking at Yuan King, Master Zhao felt a complex mix of emotions. "Did you hit your third sister?" Concubine Wen hurriedly spoke up to maintain her facade of virtue. "Master, your words are too harsh. It's just a small disagreement between sisters. There's no need to use words like hit." Yuan King calmly admitted it. "Yes, I hit Zhao Sulan." Master Zhao was infuriated by Yuan King's unapologetic attitude. "Is this your attitude?" Yuan King glanced at Concubine Wen and bluntly attacked her background. Concubine Wen doesn't come from a noble family, so she naturally has many shortcomings in educating children. "If it weren't for my slap today, third sister might have lost her life, not to mention dragging down our entire Zhao family. Even if father hadn't called for me, I would have come to discuss this with you later." Hearing the severe consequences, Master Zhao immediately calmed down. He looked at Sulan. "What exactly did you say?" Yuan King didn't answer, but looked at Sulan instead. "Why don't you tell him yourself? That way I won't be accused of exaggerating." Seeing Yuan King actively shift the focus to her, Sulan suddenly had a bad feeling, but the burning pain on her face made her unwilling to back down. She didn't believe secretly meeting an outsider could be spun into a good thing. She decided to snitch to the end. Second sister confessed her love to a eunuch and was seen walking with another man. I felt second sister's actions were inappropriate, but I suppose second sister has her own principles. It was me who spoke out of turn. Seeing Yuan King so calm, Master Zhao wasn't in a rush to get angry. "Yuan King, is this true? How do you explain?" Yuan King nodded. "It is true. But does father know who the man escorting me back was?" Master Zhao glared at her. "Don't keep me in suspense." Yuan King smiled, glancing at Sulan. It was Zhuang Li. As her words fell, the other three gasped in shock. Everyone knew the significance of Zhuang Li personally escorting someone. Sulan's bad feeling intensified. It seemed she was about to shoot herself in the foot again. Her father's initial anger over the strange man vanished the moment he heard it was the commander of the Eastern Depot. Master Zhao cleared his throat awkwardly. If it was Lord Zhuang, then it indeed would be hard to decline. Aside from Zhuang Li's massive power, if Yuan King publicly declared her love and then rejected him right after, wouldn't that be a direct slap to Zhuang Li's face? Yuan King wasn't going to let Sulan off the hook that easily. She deliberately added, "But that wasn't all. Third sister privately looked down on my interactions with Lord Zhuang. If she grumbled about it in private, I wouldn't care. But Lord Zhuang hadn't gone far. If I let third sister make wild accusations, Lord Zhuang might think the Zhao family has some grievance with him. Father, I was saving third sister." Master Zhao believed Yuan King instantly. He was about to scold Sulan, but seeing the injury on her face, he softened his tone. "Third girl, you need to watch your words in the future." Sulan almost spat blood. She brought her father here to back her up only to receive a scolding. She had suffered those slaps for absolutely nothing. Concubine Wen knew it was useless to say anything more and could only glare hatefully at Yuan King. Seeing the mother and daughter duo red-eyed with anger but forced to swallow their bitterness, Yuan King felt incredibly refreshed and made a graceful exit. As soon as they left Sulan's courtyard, Sanian excitedly said, "Miss, I've always thought using Lord Zhuang's name was a great idea." Before she could finish, a servant from her grandfather's courtyard interrupted. "Second miss, the grand tutor invites you over." Yuan King nodded, looking at Sanian. "See? Speak of the devil." Since her rebirth, she hadn't seen her beloved grandfather yet. With excitement in her heart, she entered Grand Tutor Zhao's study. Upon seeing her, Grand Tutor Zhao cut straight to the chase. "I just got back and heard the rumors about you. I know you don't want to enter the palace. Using Zhuang Li as a shield this once is fine. The daughters of the Zhao family never have to worry about finding a match. But if you keep tangling with Zhuang Li, Yuan King, you should know the severity of it." Yuan King didn't answer directly. Instead, she brought up the 10th princess. "I ran into the 10th princess today. She deliberately picked a fight, and Zhuang Li bailed me out, and the mastermind behind the 10th princess is highly likely to be the person sitting at the top. The one at the top probably can't tolerate the Zhao family anymore." Grand Tutor Zhao was the head of the family. Yuan King had to warn him so they could be prepared to retreat safely when the time came. Hearing this, Grand Tutor Zhao sighed. How can one allow others to sleep soundly beside the emperor's throne? Even if we allied with Zhuangli and changed the emperor, as long as the Zhao family holds significant military power, we will still be targeted. Yuan King argued, if it becomes a three-way standoff, if I interact with Zhuangli, it makes Emperor Ming'an wary of the Zhao family but afraid to touch us. As long as the men of the Zhao family don't explicitly take a side, Emperor Ming'an will continue trying to win us over. If Zhuangli wants to make a move against the Zhao family, Emperor Ming'an won't sit idly by. This way, the Zhao family is safest. Grand Tutor Zhao carefully weighed her words and nodded. It's not a bad strategy, but the court officials dislike Zhuangli. If we abruptly interact with him, have you calculated the gains and losses, Yuan King? Yuan King chuckled lightly. Isn't it just the private affair of a young woman? Surely it doesn't need to involve the entire clan? Seeing his granddaughter's clear mind and how she weighed the pros and cons in favor of the Zhao family, Grand Tutor Zhao smiled and patted her head. All right, go back. You handle this matter however you see fit. Knowing her grandfather wouldn't stop her from interacting with Zhuangli was enough. As long as she could pull Emperor Ming'an down, it was best if the Zhao family wasn't dragged into it. Some things, she would just have to do herself. The next day, while doing her hair, Yuan King thought of Sulan again. She whispered to her personal maid, find a few careful people to keep an eye on Sulan's side. Now that she's out of the ancestral hall, she'll inevitably try to contact Xu Suqing. As soon as she makes a move, send word to the Fu family. Don't make it too obvious, let Lily find out on her own. The maid instantly understood her young miss's intent. The miss is so smart, letting the dogs bite each other. Suddenly, a man's voice came from outside the door. The maid was startled. How did a strange man get in? Opening the door, she saw a man standing there. Second Miss Zhao, my commander sent me to teach you martial arts. Liu Yin, the maid, nervously blocked the door. My miss appreciates Lord Zhuang's kindness, but coming directly to her door like this is bad for my miss's reputation. Chen Mo slapped his forehead as if struck by a sudden realization. I forgot. Second Miss Zhao is a noble lady with many rules. That was my oversight. But I climbed over the wall. No one saw me. He didn't feel his actions were wrong at all. If he wasn't allowed in, he simply wouldn't leave. Seeing this, Yuan King had to decline personally. I have no intention of learning martial arts from you. I appreciate Lord Zhuang's gesture. Chen Mo shook his head. I can't make that decision. I just do what I'm told. If you want to change his mind, you have to tell the commander yourself. Yuan King suddenly asked, are you doing this on purpose? Chen Mo smiled. With my blockhead, how could I do anything on purpose? Yuan King fell silent. She finally understood. Zhuangli's offer was just a casual remark. Chen Mo's visit today was purely because Zhuangli wanted her to go find him. She nodded, saying she would go to the Eastern Depot tomorrow to tell the commander herself, and told Chen Mo to go back for now. The next day, Yuan King, dressed as a man, appeared at the Eastern Depot again. Before she could even speak, the guards started driving her away. This is the Eastern Depot. Idle people are not allowed to enter. Yuan King stood calmly to the side. I have an appointment with Lord Zhuang. Please announce me. Just say someone surnamed Zhao is here. The guard realized instantly. Oh, you're second Miss Zhao's person. Wait a moment. I'll go announce you. Yuan King was quickly allowed in. It was the same study as last time. Seeing Yuan King enter, Zhuangli teased, I was just wondering when I met a young master surnamed Zhao. Turns out it's a little lady. Yuan King smiled. To avoid causing unnecessary trouble for your lordship, I wore a disguise. What orders do you have for me today? Feigning confusion, Zhuangli replied, Clearly, second Miss Zhao came to my door herself. How did it become me summoning you? Yuan King cursed him out in her head, but kept a polite smile. Yes. I came personally to thank your lordship for your kindness in offering to teach me, and to ask you to rescind the order. Zhuangli raised an eyebrow. Oh? Yuan King felt this man was truly asking for a beating. No wonder so many people hated him. Suppressing her urge to snap at him, she asked gently, Is there some official business troubling your lordship recently? Perhaps I could offer some comfort. Smiling, Zhuangli stood up and walked over to her. Nothing major. Just have some free time. I heard the noble youths are organizing a Kuju match in a few days. I'd like to go take a look, but going alone seems to lack a certain companion. Yuan King thought to herself, After beating around the bush for half a day, the big boss finally gets to the point. She smoothly played along. I have some free time. Would I have the honor of accompanying your lordship? Zhuangli nodded. If second Miss Zhao is willing to accompany a eunuch like me, I naturally couldn't ask for more. However, I don't have a habit of traveling with young masters. I prefer beauties. Does second Miss Zhao understand? He leaned in, looking down at her, and pressed his fingertip against her forehead. His warm breath brushed her cheek. Yuan Qing's face instantly flushed red. Her declaration of love was fake, but Zhuang Li's beauty was undeniably real. Seeing his face this close, she felt slightly flustered. Perhaps finding her reaction amusing, Zhuang Li's fingertip slid from her forehead down to the tip of her nose. Why aren't you speaking? Seeing his finger about to trail lower, Yuan Qing snapped back to reality. She took 2 steps back, putting distance between them. Yes, I understand. Seeing this, Zhuang Li asked with profound meaning, Doesn't second Miss Zhao fancy me? Why are you so unwilling to get close to me? Yuan Qing quickly bowed to explain. I was afraid of offending your lordship. If you don't mind, I would naturally love to be closer to you. Zhuang Li suddenly laughed. Oh, I don't mind. Yuan Qing looked up to meet his gaze. She truly couldn't figure out what he was thinking. It was impossible that he didn't see through her public declaration of love as just a threat to Emperor Mingan. Just days ago, he was saying, What does this have to do with me? But then he defended her in the palace. And now he used Chen Mo to force her to see him, only to act like this. It was entirely perplexing. If Zhuang Li were a normal man, she would suspect he fancied her and wanted her in his harem. But no matter how powerful he was still a eunuch. Surely he wasn't seriously considering making her his eunuch wife, right? Zhuang Li easily saw through her suspicious and bizarre look. Losing interest in teasing her, he solemnly warned, Stop filling your head with inexplicable nonsense about me. All right, you can go back. I'll send someone to pick you up on the day of the Kuju match. Hearing this, Yuan Qing reined in her thoughts, softly agreed, turned, and left. Chen Mo stepped out of the shadows. Lord, you seem quite interested in the second miss. Are you really not going to consider it? You've been alone for a long time. It's time to find a wife. Zhuang Li glanced at Chen Mo. Are you that bored? Chen Mo rarely saw his lord engage with a girl. Besides, his lord wasn't actually a true eunuch. He couldn't help but say, Lord, all of us just want you to live a better life. Seeing Chen Mo's earnestness, Zhuang Li shook his head. She's not suitable. Chen Mo didn't understand. I think she's great. It's not that she isn't great. It's too much trouble, Zhuang Li replied. A woman qualified to be an empress running off to be a eunuch's wife? Even if Zhao Yuan Qing agreed, would the Zhao family allow it? Chen Mo thought for a moment and nodded. That's true. Then why are you still associating with her? Being close to you is bad for her reputation and will hinder her future marriage. Zhuang Li chuckled lightly. Whether she can marry or not is none of my business. Chen Mo looked at Zhuang Li with a complicated expression. Lord, you truly act with reckless abandon. Zhuang Li raised an eyebrow. Do you have a problem with that? Sensing the dangerous aura radiating from his master, Chen Mo quickly said, I wouldn't dare! I wouldn't dare! And melted back into the shadows. Meanwhile, back at the Zhao estate, Yuan Qing was pondering the upcoming Kuju match. This was a grand event among the capital's nobility. For Zhuang Li to ask her to accompany him on this day was essentially broadcasting to everyone that their relationship was extraordinary. She didn't care. But why was Zhuang Li doing this? She couldn't figure it out. She took a detour to see her grandfather, Grand Tutor Zhao. He told her about a major event in court that day. That morning, a corpse wearing the uniform of the Eastern Depot was found in the suburbs. It was confirmed to be one of Zhuang Li's guards. After the morning court session, Emperor Mingan summoned several ministers to the imperial study. Right in the middle of discussing official business, a commotion erupted outside. The eunuchs tried to stop Zhuang Li, saying they needed to announce him, but Zhuang Li barged straight in. Seeing this, Emperor Mingan wanted to lose his temper, but meeting Zhuang Li's gaze, he suppressed all his emotions, waving the eunuchs away. Lord Zhuang, what brings you here in such a hurry? Do you have an urgent report? Zhuang Li's expressionless face suddenly broke into a smile. I had a nightmare. What kind of nightmare would make Lord Zhuang rush straight into the imperial study? Emperor Mingan's tone seemed amiable, but his words emphasized Zhuang Li's disrespectful behavior. Zhuang Li acted as if he didn't hear the underlying sarcasm. Still feigning lingering fear, he said, I dreamt that the emperor suddenly fell ill and passed away. It scared me right awake. Everything in the dream felt too real, and I couldn't tell reality from illusion, so I had to come see for myself. Seeing that your majesty is well puts my mind at ease. Your majesty must take good care of your dragon body. Emperor Mingan's face looked terrible, but he refused to lash out directly. A minister trying to curry favor with the emperor immediately barked, "Zhuangli! Trespassing in the imperial study without an imperial decree is highly disrespectful. Do you think this is your Eastern Depot?" Zhuangli's gaze landed lightly on Minister Xue. The emperor hasn't even faulted me. Since when does Minister Xue make decisions for the emperor? Minister Xue turned pale and quickly apologized to Emperor Mingan. This subject had no such intention. Please perceive the truth, Your Majesty. After causing this inexplicable scene, Zhuangli left at a leisurely pace, leaving behind a study full of fury. Grand Tutor Zhao believed he somewhat understood Zhuangli. Though capricious, directly storming the imperial study was a first. So after leaving the palace, he had his people investigate the dead guard in the suburbs. Yuan King also sensed the issue. But what's so strange about a dead guard? Grand Tutor Zhao nodded. First, the guard died a horrific death. Second, there seemed to be an unidentified token left on the corpse. Yuan King suddenly understood why Zhuangli had given the emperor such a harsh warning today. It all made sense. This year, the Kuju match was hosted by the head of the Jue family. Zhuangli must have realized his subordinate's death was tied to Emperor Mingan, but something else must have happened to trigger him to storm the imperial study. And thanks to Minister Xu's outburst, Zhuangli decided to check out the Kuju match. But this wouldn't be just a simple visit. And it wasn't just the Jue family. The Qingyuan Marquise estate wouldn't miss the match either. This meant she would see Xu Suqing again. Thinking of everything she suffered in her past life, Yuan King's expression turned cold. She hated Emperor Mingan, yes, but right now, she hated Sulan and Xu Suqing the most. Sulan had already suffered a few losses, but this time, she had to prepare a grand gift for Xu Suqing to truly honor their past marital bond. For the Kuju match, old Madame Zhao specifically gathered the girls from the different branches of the family to give them a warning. The draft is approaching. The young ladies attending will inevitably enter the palace to become masters. You must be cautious in your words and deeds. As Yuan King was leaving the old madame's courtyard, she was stopped by the fourth miss from the second branch, who sweetly called out, "Second sister," and trotted over to catch up. Yuan King was very fond of this legitimate second daughter from the second branch, having been close since childhood. She reached out and wiped the sweat from the girl's forehead with her handkerchief. "What's the rush, Yuanji? I would have waited for you." Yuanji smiled brightly. "I just missed you so much. Ever since the news of the draft came out, you've been so busy I haven't seen you. Mother wouldn't let me bother you either." "Oh right, second sister. Is Lord Zhuang really that beautiful?" Yuan King paused, then smiled. "Yes, very beautiful." Hearing this, Yuanji's eyes lit up. She whispered, "Then, does he eat people?" Yuan King couldn't help but burst out laughing. Was the rumor of Zhuangli killing without blinking too absurd, or was her fourth sister just too sheltered? Yuanji seemed to realize she asked something silly, shyly tugging at Yuan Qing's sleeve. "Second sister, you're laughing at me." Yuan Qing tried to suppress her laughter. All right, I won't laugh. Let's go." Just as they turned around, they were blocked by Sulan. "Is second sister going to the Kuju match? Can I go with you?" Seeing the smile on Sulan's face, Yuan King thought, she's suffered so many losses, yet she's still coming back for more. What wicked plan is she cooking up now? Facing Sulan's request to accompany her, Yuan King bluntly refused. No. Sulan realized Yuan King had truly changed. She needed to switch tactics, but without figuring out Yuan King's new style, and in front of onlookers, she fell back on pretending to be weak and pitiful. "Is second sister still mad at me? I was in the wrong last time. I apologize to you. Please, for the sake of our sisterhood, don't be mad at me anymore." Yuan King had no intention of keeping up the fake sisterly act. She coldly pulled her hand away. "What nonsense are you talking about? Since when did we have any sisterhood? The swelling goes down and you forget the pain? How many times do you need to learn what bringing shame upon yourself means?" Sulan was burning with rage, but she maintained her pitiful facade. Seeing this, Yuan King ignored her and said outright, "Don't you just want to know who I'm meeting? I'm meeting Zhuangli. If you dare to try anything, be my guest." With that, she pulled Yuanji and walked right past her. Sulan squatted on the spot, her heart consumed by resentment and jealousy. Zhao Yuanqing already has so much. Why is even a dead eunuch like Zhuang Li taking her side? Suddenly, a surge of confidence hit her. It was just because no one had done for Zhuang Li what Yuanqing did, which made him look at her differently. Whatever Yuanqing could do, Sulan believed she could do too. The day of the Kuju match arrived. Early in the morning, Yuanqing's maid dragged her out of bed to get ready. The maid reported, "Lord Zhuang is already waiting at the gate." Yuanqing was astonished. "He came personally?" Sanian nodded. "Yes, the servants just came to report. They invited Lord Zhuang in, but he said he'd wait at the gate. Miss, you didn't see it. The messenger's face was completely pale." Yuanqing felt a bit of sympathy for her household staff. It was hard on them. She urged the maids to hurry, just putting something together quickly so as not to keep him waiting. Zhuang Li personally coming to the Zhao estate to pick her up gave Yuanqing immense face. While Zhuang Li was sipping tea and waiting inside his carriage, a cloyingly sweet female voice came from outside. "Is Lord Zhuang in the carriage?" Thinking of Zhuang Li's power, Sulan decided to risk it all. So what if he was a eunuch? If she could get his help, why would she fear Zhao Yuanqing? If Zhuang Li could help Emperor Mingan ascend the throne, couldn't he also make her the empress? Because Zhuang Li was being nice to Yuanqing, Sulan subconsciously forgot all the terrifying rumors about him. The guard standing in front of the carriage blocked Sulan. "Idle personnel are not to approach." Sulan looked at the guards coquettishly. "I am the third miss of the Zhao family. Is Lord Zhuang in the carriage?" Zhuang Li had no interest in Sulan, but thinking of Yuanqing, he wanted to see what Sulan was trying to pull. He lifted the curtain and asked, "What business does the third miss of the Zhao family have?" Seeing Zhuang Li show his face, Sulan was overjoyed. She quickly curtsied. "I have long admired your lordship's great name and hold you in deep respect. Hearing that you were here, I took the liberty of disturbing your peace." Zhuang Li gave a soft, "Oh," and said, "Admiring my ruthlessness? Hearing about my treacherous nature, you came like a child to seek guidance?" Sulan's smile stiffened. Dreaming of wealth and glory, she bit the bullet and replied, "Your lordship jests. That's just malicious gossip from jealous people. I know your lordship is absolutely not like that." Zhuang Li flashed a wicked smile. "No, you're wrong. That's exactly what I am like. Although you aren't as pretty as your sister, you're passable. Peeled, you'd make a decent human skin lantern, just good enough to hang at the gates of my eastern depot." Sulan stared at Zhuang Li in disbelief. Was he joking? But the terrifying rumors she had subconsciously ignored suddenly flooded her mind. She was terrified. As if that wasn't enough, Zhuang Li continued, "To make a good human skin lantern, the key is skinning the person while they are still alive. That keeps the skin taut and lifelike. Oh, right. To keep the person from passing out halfway, you have to sprinkle salt on the wound while skinning. If you get a skilled master, they work fast. They can peel the whole skin off in about an hour. Since the third miss is so sincere, I naturally must fulfill your wish. Men, take the third miss away. Remember to be quick about it. We don't want the third miss to suffer too much." The guards immediately responded, grabbing Sulan. Sulan had wanted to gamble that Zhuang Li wouldn't kill her for no reason at the Zhao estate's gate. But now she panicked. Unable to maintain her noble lady facade, she screamed for help. "Let me go! I won't go! Somebody save me!" Yuanqing walked out just in time to see Sulan struggling like a madwoman in the grip of two guards. A highly absurd thought popped into her head. Is Sulan actually stupid enough to provoke Zhuang Li on purpose? Out of the corner of his eye, Zhuang Li saw Yuanqing emerge. He called out, "Second Miss Zhao, you aren't as sincere as your third sister. She volunteered to become a human skin lantern at the gates of my eastern depot." For a moment, Yuanqing didn't know whether to comment on Sulan's fearless ignorance or Zhuang Li's twisted sense of humor. Sulan noticed Yuanqing and immediately begged for help. She assumed that no matter how much Yuanqing disliked her, she wouldn't disregard the Zhao family's reputation. Seeing this, Zhuang Li smiled and asked, "Does second Miss Zhao want to save her?" Yuanqing stepped forward and curtsied. "Apologies for keeping your lordship waiting. I am ready. We can depart immediately." Zhuang Li was only using Sulan for his amusement anyway. Now that the main guest had arrived, he naturally wouldn't waste time on an irrelevant person. He ordered, "Get in." Sulan watched helplessly as Yuanqing climbed into Zhuang Li's carriage and rode away. Intense hatred erupted in her eyes. "Zhao Yuanqing, how dare you leave me to die?" The two guards holding her couldn't care less about what she thought. Seeing their master depart, they threw Sulan directly onto the ground and rushed to catch up. Human skin lanterns? The Eastern Depot didn't even make those. Having survived the ordeal, Sulan didn't feel relief, she only hated Yuan King more. I will not rest until one of us is dead. In the carriage, Zhuang Li teased, Second Miss Zhao really doesn't care about her own sister at all. Yuan King countered, Would your lordship actually kill her? Zhuang Li answered honestly, No. Yuan King smiled and asked again, If your lordship isn't going to kill her, why should I be anxious? She thought to herself, she has to bear the consequences of her own actions. Besides, we're enemies. If she offended someone else, I might swallow my pride to mediate for the sake of the family. But with Zhuang Li, it's fine. Outsiders will just attribute it to Zhuang Li's usual tyrannical style, not blame the Zhao family. Zhuang Li suddenly leaned closer to Yuan King, asking meaningfully, So this is what it's like to admire someone? Confused, Yuan King asked, What does your lordship mean? Zhuang Li stared deeply at her. You don't care about my reputation at all. Even when I clashed with your sister, you didn't step in to smooth things over. With this commotion today, ignorant outsiders will definitely think I was bullying a concubine's daughter of the Zhao family for no reason. So this is how a young lady shows her admiration. His feigned hurt expression left Yuan King momentarily stunned. Your lordship misunderstands. I simply thought you fancied someone else, and I just wanted to help give you a push. Zhuang Li scoffed lightly. Then I should thank you. Yuan King saw that he wasn't actually angry and replied with a smile, Not at all. But internally, she remained on alert. He sees right through my little schemes. I need to be more careful with my words from now on. The carriage soon arrived at the Kuju field. Zhuang Li stepped down first, then reached out a hand toward Yuan King, intending to help her down. Yuan King paused. If Zhuang Li was so proactive in getting close to her, wouldn't it look to outsiders like their affection was mutual? Who knows how mad Emperor Mingan would be when he found out? The thought delighted her. Without hesitation, she placed her hand in his and stepped gracefully out of the carriage. Zhuang Li gently squeezed her hand, smiling as he said, This is the first time I've held a girl's hand. Are all girls as soft as Second Miss Zhao? Yuan King looked at him in shock. Oh my god, I just got flirted with by a eunuch. Before she could react, Lord Shui, seeing the powerful Zhuang Li, rushed over to welcome him. She took the opportunity to pull her hand back. Lord Shui had unintentionally ruined Zhuang Li's chance to tease Yuan King, earning him a deadly glare from Zhuang Li. Terrified, he wiped his sweat repeatedly, feeling deeply distressed. It was so strange. Invitations to the Kuju match were never sent to the Eastern Depot in the past, and this year was no exception. All the front row seats had already been arranged according to the guest list. Now that Zhuang Li had suddenly appeared, where was he supposed to sit? Fortunately, he only needed to coordinate moving 2 seats. It shouldn't be too big a problem. He waited respectfully for Zhuang Li's instructions. Zhuang Li waved it off casually. No matter. I merely accompanied Second Miss Zhao here to watch the fun. He looked at Yuan King. Second Miss Zhao, shall we head over now? Yuan King nodded in agreement. With her current status, she didn't really have a choice. Hearing this, Lord Shui hurriedly said, Lord Zhuang, this lower official has already prepared a seat for you. The view is much better. Please, follow me. He led them to the best seats on the high platform. Zhuang Li looked around and expressed his dissatisfaction. I'm accompanying Second Miss Zhao this time. If the Zhao family is seated too far away, it will be difficult for her to chat with her sisters. Lord Zhu's face froze, but he quickly reacted. I will immediately move all the Zhao family's seats next to Lord Zhuang. Would that be acceptable? Zhuang Li hummed in assent, looking at Yuan King. Besides the sisters in your family, you also have close friends you usually interact with. Your maternal grandfather's family as well, right? You probably haven't seen them in a while. Yuan King knew Zhuang Li was using her to make things difficult for the Zhui family. Playing the obedient companion, she gave a soft, Lord Shui had to force a smile. I understand. I will definitely arrange everything properly. Zhuang Li finally seemed satisfied. He sat down in the best seat with Yuan King, completely unbothered by the massive shock and workload his actions caused. Seeing the Demon Lord stop making demands, Lord Zhui quickly ordered his people to rearrange everyone's seats. Yuan King glanced at Zhuang Li, who was calmly drinking tea, feeling quite emotional. Zhuang Li didn't even have to lift a finger. Just a few words caused massive trouble for the Zhui family. He really was a troublemaker. If things blew up, she at least needed a heads up. She quietly asked him, "Lord Zhuang, your visit today surely involves more than just this, right?" Zhuangli played dumb, sitting in a relaxed posture. "I just came to watch a Kuju match. What else could I be doing? You're overthinking it." Yuan King sneered inwardly. "I believe you. Not. You bad seed." But she tried again. "I just worry that I won't be able to play my part well in whatever scene you have planned next." Zhuangli didn't budge. "No matter. I trust our mutual understanding. Besides, some things lose their fun if you know about them beforehand." Realizing she wasn't going to get anything out of him, Yuan King tactfully stopped asking. People were gradually arriving. Although Yuan Qing and Fu Leli had completely fallen out in private, on the surface, everyone still thought they were best friends. Thus, the Fu family's seats were placed exceptionally close to the front. Yuan King had to admire her sister's thick skin. Like a piece of chewing gum stuck to a shoe, she shamelessly tagged along. Leli looked at Yuan King with hatred and jealousy. She blamed Yuan King for ruining her chance to enter the palace, while Yuan King herself was climbing the social ladder. The third miss of the Fu family, who also wanted to latch onto Zhuangli's power, whispered in Leili's ear. "Leili, everyone says Lord Zhuang is terrifying, but looking at him now, he's nothing much. I think he treats Yuan King quite well. With Lord Zhuang's backing, if Yuan King enters the palace later, her rise to power will be unstoppable." Leili took this to heart. She figured even if she couldn't climb Zhuangli's social ladder, ruining his impression of Yuan King would be a victory. So she took the lead and walked toward Yuan King. Zhuangli had sensed the malice early on. With a gloating tone, he warned Yuan King, "Your good sister is here." Yuan King's gaze swept over, her heart completely calm. "Is your lordship here to watch the show or to cheer me on?" Zhuangli didn't deny it. He leaned lazily back in his chair. "Since second Miss Zhao admires me, I assume you wouldn't mind letting me watch some entertainment to stave off boredom. After all, the grand finale I have planned is best saved for last." Yuan King raised an eyebrow, so changing seats was just the appetizer. While they spoke, the Fu sisters approached, but before they could get close, they were stopped by Zhuangli's guards. Seeing Yuan King ignoring her, Leili secretly hated her, but kept a smile on her face. "I am a daughter of the Fu family, a good friend of Miss Zhao inside." She waved at Yuan King. "Yuan King, Yuan King." Yuan King didn't want to pretend to be besties with Leili anymore, but they hadn't formally fallen out, so she couldn't make it too obvious. She sighed softly, stood up, and said, "Since your lordship wants to watch a show, I'll have to put one on. I just hope you don't find it boring." Zhuangli smiled brightly. "Whatever second Miss Zhao performs, I will enjoy." Yuan Qing was really done with Zhuangli's twisted sense of humor. Even though she was smiling, Zhuangli didn't miss her fleeting eye roll. He couldn't help but reflect how cautious and meticulous she was the first time she met me, and now, in such a short time, she dares to roll her eyes at me. He stared at her back and asked Chen Mo, "Tell me, am I too merciful?" Without hesitation, Chen Mo answered, "The commander is the most benevolent person there is." Zhuangli smiled and nodded. "Indeed, I am too lenient." Their voices weren't low. Yuan King, who hadn't walked far, heard every word clearly. She truly witnessed what it meant to be shameless and invincible. When Leili saw Yuan King approach, she quickly yelled, "Can you tell them to let us in? I haven't seen you in so long. I want to talk to you." Hearing this, Yuan King put on a troubled expression. "They only follow Lord Zhuang's orders. I have no authority over them." Leili blurted out entitledly, "Then just tell Lord Zhuang." Yuan King sneered internally. "In the past, I really would have introduced you, but I'm not that stupid anymore." She looked even more troubled. "How would I dare speak of such things to Lord Zhuang? Haven't you heard the rumors about him outside?" Realizing Yuan King was intentionally messing with her, Leili scoffed, "What's the big deal?" and turned away with a dark expression. Seeing this, the third Miss Fu quickly tried to smooth things over. "Leili has been unhappy because of that incident. Don't mind her, Yuan King. I'll go back now too." Yuan King smiled and said okay, while rolling her eyes internally. "I really don't know what these people are thinking, throwing themselves at Zhuangli one after another. We've clearly fallen out, yet they still expect me to use my influence to shield them from him. Are their brains broken, or do they think I'm the crazy one?" Her gaze swept over the Zhao family's section and locked onto Sulan's eyes. Sulan resentfully turned her head away. Yuan King found it amusing. "So she's blaming me for getting thrown out at the gate too." Whatever. The fun hasn't even started yet, and Sulan is already losing her composure. Just then, a loud, high-pitched announcement rang out. "The Emperor arrives!" Yuan King was surprised. Emperor Mingan actually came? Seeing Emperor Mingan unexpectedly appear at the Kuju match, Yuan King instantly understood. Harassing the Zhui family was just a minor amusement Zhuangli sought in his free time. The real show Zhuangli wanted to put on was for Emperor Mingan. The gossip involving her, Zhuangli, and Emperor Mingan had been spreading wildly among the noble families over the past few days. And now, the three main characters were finally meeting face to face. No wonder Zhuangli said the show couldn't go on without her. Yuan King sighed. "The show your lordship wants to put on today is quite a grand one." Zhuangli glanced at the approaching emperor out of the corner of his eye, remaining in his lazy posture, though his smile carried a chill. Isn't this exactly what second Miss Zhao wanted? Although Yuan King wanted to threaten Emperor Mingan, she didn't dare openly defy him just yet. "I am not as bold as your lordship." Zhuangli chuckled lightly. "Just sit back and watch this good show." Lord Shui had no idea why Zhuangli and Emperor Mingan were both here for this year's Kuju match. The best seats had already been cleared for Zhuangli. Now that the emperor had arrived, where was he supposed to sit? He was on the verge of tears from anxiety. Emperor Mingan was in a good mood at the moment. In places where Zhuangli wasn't present, he was the absolute ruler. "Rise, Minister Shui. I often joined the excitement of this Kuju match when I was a prince. Naturally, I had to come take a look this year. Pay me no mind. Be at ease." Lord Xi put on a stiff smile and quickly answered, "Yes." Then he tentatively asked, "Your Majesty, Lord Zhuang is also here today. Should I inform him?" The emperor's smile visibly vanished, but he quickly recovered. "Lord Zhuang is here too? No need to inform him. I will go find him myself." He knew Zhuangli's personality too well. If he was informed, he would just grunt in acknowledgement and remain in his seat. Emperor Minguan didn't want to lose that kind of face in front of everyone. Seeing that the emperor didn't look visibly angry, Lord Zhui wiped his cold sweat and quickly led the way. As Emperor Mingan approached, everyone along the path knelt in greeting. Zhuangli, sitting in his armchair, seemed completely oblivious, chatting with Yuan King about amusing anecdotes. Yuan King understood his intent, so she played along as if she hadn't noticed the emperor either, keeping up the conversation. While everyone else was kneeling, pretending not to see him was incredibly disrespectful. The emperor believed Zhuangli was doing it on purpose, and he could barely maintain his smile. The eunuch serving the emperor, noticing the situation, deliberately announced loudly to remind Zhuangli and Yuan King to pay their respects. But Zhuangli remained deaf to it, discussing the rules of the Kuju match with Yuan King. Being left hanging like this was a massive blow to the emperor's prestige. Suppressing his anger, he forced a strained smile and greeted Zhuangli first. How is it that Lord Zhuang was also interested in joining the excitement today? Yuan King still didn't dare to give anyone a handle to use against her regarding etiquette. Hearing this, she stood up and bowed to the emperor. This bow gave Emperor Mingan a way out, making him feel slightly better. "You may rise." Zhuangli lazily stood up. With his overwhelming power, he naturally didn't need to kneel. "Oh, Your Majesty, you're here too." Emperor Mingan maintained his trademark fake smile. "Yes, it seems Lord Zhuang and I had the same idea today." Zhuangli smiled. "That's not exactly true." He then looked at Yuan King, his tone gentle and ambiguous. "I am here today to accompany second Miss Zhao." This show of dominance was glaringly obvious. Emperor Mingan's face darkened, his expression turning gloomy. Suddenly being put in the spotlight, Yuan King neither responded nor denied it. She just maintained a proper smile, but internally, she marked down a grudge against Zhuangli. "I know you want to piss off Emperor Mingan, but you don't have to draw all the aggro to me." Emperor Mingan couldn't directly challenge Zhuangli's power right now, so he had to continue playing the ninja turtle. Feigning nonchalance, he changed the subject. "The match is about to begin. Let's sit." Sitting shoulder to shoulder with a eunuch made him a very frustrated emperor. But as the ruler, no matter how furious he was inside, he had to smile on the outside, forcing himself to save face. "Today we are outside the palace, so we need not observe the formalities of ruler and subject. Lord Zhuang, please sit with me." Zhuangli naturally wouldn't refuse. Yuan King observed everything, feeling quite amused. This ally wasn't bad. Zhuangli then initiated his second step, infuriating the emperor to death without paying the price. He personally picked up a pastry and offered it to Yuan King. "Second Miss Zhao, this pastry is excellent, try it." Yuan King smiled, thanked him, and took the pastry, but didn't plan on eating it. She just wanted to quietly watch the drama without getting burned by the crossfire. But Zhuangli insisted on dragging her down with him. He smiled at her. "Second Miss Zhao, aren't you going to eat? Could it be you find a eunuch like me repulsive?" The threat in his words was too strong. Helpless, Yuan King could only play along. She smiled, picked up a piece, and took a bite. It really was delicious. The two interacted back and forth like a newlywed couple, radiating a sweet atmosphere. Zhuangli didn't care how Emperor Ming'an felt. He didn't initiate conversation with him, only smiling and talking to Yuan King. "If you like it, eat more. I've never watched a Kuju match before and I don't understand it. Explain it to me so I can broaden my horizons." Emperor Ming'an was fuming. If looks could kill, Zhuangli would have died 1,000 times over. This dead eunuch. He knows perfectly well that Zhao Yuan King is the future imperial consort I chose. Doing this in public is blatantly cuckolding me. Unable to watch any longer, he spoke up again. "With me here, second Miss Zhao must feel somewhat constrained. Why don't you go find your sisters to play with?" Yuan King didn't really want to stay there anyway. Although she wanted to ally with Zhuangli, she wasn't ready for a direct confrontation with Emperor Ming'an just yet. It was better to retreat before she got dragged down. She took the out. Zhuangli glanced at her, giving her a look that could only be felt, not explained. But he didn't stop her. He watched her leave, cursing her internally, little ingrate. "You publicly declare your love when you need me, but the moment I need you to play along, you abandon ship." Once Yuan King left, the Emperor's feeling of sitting on pins and needles faded slightly. He suggested, "If Lord Zhuang doesn't understand Kuju, why don't I find someone to explain it to you?" Zhuangli smiled faintly. "I appreciate your Majesty's kindness, but some things only have meaning depending on who is explaining them." Hearing this, Emperor Ming'an nearly crushed his cup. He cursed internally. "Dead eunuch! He's dead set on cuckolding me!" Meanwhile, Yuan King had just sat down in a small pavilion when Yuanji bounded over. "Second sister, Lord Zhuang is so beautiful!" Yuan King tapped her naive sister's head. "You can say that in front of me, but don't go saying it to just anyone." Yuanji immediately mimed, zipping her lips. "I know, second sister." At that moment, Sanyan walked over and whispered a few words in Yuan King's ear. Yuan King raised an eyebrow and glanced at where Sulan had been sitting. Sure enough, the person was gone. This Zhao Sulan is really impatient to cause trouble. Her gaze swept past the crowd and landed on Lily. She smiled coldly. Zhuangli's grand finale will have to wait. The appetizer I prepared is already steaming. I hope Lily doesn't disappoint me. At that moment, Lily was leaving the Kuju field based on the news her personal maid had overheard. "Quick, tell me exactly what's going on." This servant heard that the third Miss Zhao and heir Shu are having an improper relationship. "I went to fetch your clothes today and happened to bump into people from the Zhao estate. I accidentally overheard them talking, saying that third Miss Zhao was secretly sending letters to heir Shu. For a young lady of the inner chambers to secretly send letters to heir Shu for no reason, what else could it be?" Although Lily didn't like Shu King, she had no better options. She could not tolerate the person who conspired with her to frame Yuan King trying to steal him away. Who does Zhao Sulan think she is? How dare she try to steal the position of the heir's wife? She immediately ordered her maid to gather a few guards and followed her to the tea house to catch the cheaters. At this time, in the private room of the tea house, Shu King and Sulan had no idea trouble was at their door. The two held each other, exchanging words of longing. "Sulan, it's not good. I've suffered so much. Heir Shu, I missed you so much. It's a pity you are already engaged to Miss Fu. I can only hide my longing for you in my heart." Seeing his beloved so wronged, Shu King's heart ached, and his resentment toward Lily grew. "It's all Fu Lily's fault. Her one mistake forced us into this situation. Don't cry. My heart is breaking." Sulan feigned weakness, tugging at his sleeve. "Heir Shu is about to marry Miss Fu. It's all my fault. Please don't let this ruin your marital bond with Miss Fu." Shu King scoffed disdainfully. "What marital bond do I have with her? The only person I've ever wanted to marry is you, Sulan." He held her tightly in his arms. Sulan lowered her head, fake crying while rolling her eyes. She thought internally, men are so easy to fool. Since I couldn't get the commander's favor, latching onto the heir to become his wife isn't bad either. As they were being all lovey-dovey, they were completely unaware that Layli had reached the door and heard their entire conversation clearly. For the legitimate daughter of the Fu family, this was the ultimate humiliation. She kicked the door open and dragged Sulan out of Shusu King's arms. Then, with a swing of her arm, she delivered a vicious slap across Sulan's face. "You slut!" It all happened too fast. When Shusu King snapped back to reality, he rushed forward, pushed Layli away, and shielded Sulan behind him. He demanded sternly, "Have you gone crazy?" Her fiancé's action pushed Layli's fury to its absolute peak. "What a pair of adulterous dogs! Do you think I'm easy to bully?" She immediately summoned the 2 guards. "Tie them both up, men and women alike. Today I'm going to teach them exactly what propriety, justice, integrity, and shame mean." Shu Qing, completely oblivious to his precarious situation, dared to threaten Layli. "Let me go, Fu Lili. I am a guard of the Qingyuan Marquis estate. I'm warning you, if you dare harm Sulan, I will never let you step foot into our estate." Layli laughed out of pure anger. "You think I'm dying to marry into your Marquis estate? Today you two have wronged me. Whatever I do, you will endure it." She then ordered the guards, "Strip off all their clothes, tie them together with rope and throw them out on the street. Aren't you two true love? I'm granting your wish. I'll let you be together." Sulan screamed in terror, but she had no power to resist. In moments, her outer garments were stripped away. Seeing his beloved girl stripped of her clothes, Shu King's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He struggled and screamed, "Let go!" The 3rd Miss Fu arrived just then. Seeing the scene, she turned pale with fright. If this kept escalating, it would be a massive scandal. Tearing off the veil of decency would be bad for both families. The 3rd Miss Fu decisively turned back to find Yuan King. She figured Sulan was from the Zhao family, and only someone with authority from the Zhao family could stop this. Hearing her plea, Yuan King feigned shock. "What? Zhao Sulan and Herr Shu are having an improper relationship?" In reality, she knew far more details than the 3rd Miss Fu did. After all, the rumors had been spread by her own people. The fact that they were caught so effectively today was all her doing. Unaware of this, the 3rd Miss Fu urged anxiously, "Yes, Lili has a hot temper and is always reckless. Right now, she's actually screaming about stripping them and parading them through the streets." Yuan King put on a pained expression. How could she do that? It's far too inappropriate. In her heart, she was laughing uproariously. Honestly, Layli's method was quite satisfying. But for the sake of the Zhao family's reputation, she had to step in and wrap things up. She stood up hurriedly. "I'll go with you. We absolutely cannot let Lili cause a disaster." Back at the tea house, Sulan was left in only her undergarments, crying loudly and begging the Fu girls. "Please let me go. I know I was wrong. I really won't do it again. Please, just let me go." Shu Qing had also been stripped bare, left only in his underpants. He didn't dare make a sound anymore. Lily's gaze fell coldly on Sulan. Too late. She ordered the guards to tie them up and throw them onto the street. The guards found ropes, shoved Shu King and Sulan together, and bound them tightly. If they were thrown onto the street like this to be gawked at, their reputations would be utterly and irreparably destroyed. Sulan screamed at Leli like a madwoman. "Fu Leli, kill me if you have the guts, kill me, because if I live for even one more day, I will never let you off." Lily laughed mockingly. "You think I'm afraid of you? We'll see who doesn't let who off." Not just Sulan. Shu Suqing had also gone mad, screaming Leli's name. "Are you insane? I am your fiancé. Fu Leli, you bitch, I'm going to kill you." Leli entirely ignored their raving. Grabbing the rope, she prepared to drag them out onto the street. The returning third Miss Fu rushed to stop her. Yuan King also feigned shock as she looked at Leli. "Leli, what is going on?" Seeing Yuan King, Leli's expression worsened. "Are you here to laugh at me too?" Yuan King knew exactly what Leli wanted. Considering that Leli's actions had somewhat helped her vent her anger, Yuan King spoke to her nicely. "Today, the Zhao family has wronged you. I will report Sulan's matter to my grandfather, and my grandmother will give you a satisfactory explanation." Lili understood that if she truly threw those two onto the street, the backlash would outweigh the satisfaction. Now that she had secured a promise of compensation, she took the out. "I can let her off today, but there won't be a next time. You handle the rest." Without waiting for Yuan King's response, she left with a dark expression. The third Miss Fu once again showed her face to Yuan King. Yuan King, I'll leave this to you. I have to go keep an eye on Lily. She really suffered a huge grievance today. Yuan King saw right through the third Miss Fu's self-serving motives. She nodded slightly. I understand. Go ahead. Watching them leave, Yuan King felt a slight comfort for the pain of her past life, thanks to her toxic friend's misery. She calmly ordered her maid, Liu Yin, to clear the tea house of customers, bring 2 carriages to the back alley, and have the guards drag Shu Su King out of the room and throw him into a carriage. Following her orders, the guards didn't even bother dressing Shu Su King, they just dragged him out. Shu Su King yelled in humiliation. When he suddenly saw Yuan King at the door, his face flushed red, and he felt intensely regretful. Why did she have to see me like this? How am I supposed to seduce her now? He silently turned his head away, having no face to speak to her. Yuan King couldn't be bothered to pay attention to this scumbag husband from her past life. Her revenge had only just begun. She turned and entered the private room. Only Sulan remained inside, scantily clad and weeping silently. Her eyes were vacant as she hugged herself, seemingly having suffered a massive blow. Yuan King felt absolutely no sympathy for her. She picked up a piece of clothing from the floor and tossed it directly at Sulan. Her tone was icy. Put it on and go back. Hearing Yuan King's voice, Sulan looked up and demanded through tears, Why? Why didn't you come sooner? Yuan King laughed. What do you think our relationship is? Saving you from public humiliation was the absolute limit of my tolerance. Sulan refused to accept it, blaming everything on Yuan King. You ruined me! She lunged forward, trying to pull Yuan King's hair. Yuan King dodged easily, coldly watching her fall flat on her face. You ruined yourself. Look out for yourself from now on. She wasn't going to stick around and let Sulan vent her emotions on her. Feeling liberated, she turned and left. Watching Yuan King's retreating back, Sulan wailed in despair. Thinking about what she had just experienced, the agony was overwhelming. Why? Why did this happen? She felt her entire world collapse. She even thought about death. If I die, will the pain stop? She smashed a teacup, screaming that she wanted to die. But when the porcelain shard pressed against her wrist, she couldn't bring herself to cut. Finally, she threw it away and collapsed, sobbing hysterically, holding her head. Yuan King listened to the commotion from the door, a cold sneer in her heart. Painful? Compared to what I went through in my past life, this isn't even a drop in the ocean. Recalling her past life, her eyes filled with hatred. After a moment, she closed her eyes, composed her emotions, and told Sanian, wait until she's dressed, then take her back. With that, she left with her people to return to the Kuju match. Meanwhile, the farce at the tea house quickly reached Zhuangli's ears. Hearing his hidden guard recount the events, Zhuangli's lips curled up. Interesting. Although he despised Fu Lili, her method of handling the discovered affair suited his tastes perfectly. And the mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes, Zhao Yuan King, suited his tastes even more. Emperor Mingan wanted to know what the messenger had whispered to Zhuangli. Seeing Zhuangli's reaction, he immediately asked, what matter does Lord Zhuang find so interesting? Zhuangli gave the emperor a sidelong glance. Naturally, he wasn't going to tell him. He answered dismissively, I just think this Kuju match is very interesting. Hearing this, Emperor Mingan's eyes darkened slightly. Zhuangli's brush-off was too blatant, but he didn't dare completely offend Zhuangli at this moment. He could only swallow this anger, vowing to repay Zhuangli tenfold in the future. The Kuju match finally ended amidst the crowd's torment. Emperor Mingan departed back to the palace accompanied by a chorus of farewells. Zhuangli once again summoned Yuan King, preparing to escort her back to her estate. On the way back, Yuan King couldn't help but ask, I am foolish, and still don't know what exactly your lordship had planned today. She had been waiting for Zhuangli to make a move, but until the very end he had only slightly troubled the Sui family, and made the emperor lose face once because of her presence. Everything remained calm. What Zhuangli wanted surely couldn't be satisfied by just that. Zhuangli chuckled lightly. What's the rush? The day isn't over yet. Hearing this, Yuan King didn't press further. Although she hadn't gotten the specifics, she could confirm that Zhuangli was targeting Emperor Mingan. That was good news for her. As for what exactly it was, not knowing was fine too. The carriage soon stopped at the Zhao estate. Yuan King curtsied and respectfully bid farewell to Zhuangli. As soon as she stepped through the gate of the Zhao estate, concubine Wen suddenly charged out, looking maniacal as she grabbed Yuan King. She screamed, Zhao Yuan King, I'm going to kill you! The servants quickly pulled them apart. Hearing her words, Yuan King found it ridiculous. What did I do? Sulan is reaping what she sowed today. What does it have to do with me? Crying and screaming, concubine Wen yelled, "She is your biological sister. Why didn't you help her? How could you be so malicious? You ruined my Sulan. You ruined her." Yuan King was speechless. It was clearly Sulan who made the mistake, so why was she being blamed? She had already left a lifeline for Sulan for the sake of the Zhao family. Her face turned cold. Concubine Wen, if I hadn't stepped in, she would have been stripped naked and paraded through the streets by Fu Leli. Concubine Wen still refused to let it go, pointing viciously at Yuan King. "Fu Leli is your good friend. You definitely had a hand in this. Zhao Yuan King, I curse you. On my life, I curse you to die a horrible death." Before she could finish, the old madam's personal nanny stepped up and slapped Concubine Wen aside. "Concubine Wen, what kind of madness has possessed you? A mere concubine daring to yell at the legitimate young miss?" She swiftly pulled a handkerchief from her sleeve and gagged Concubine Wen. "Since you don't know how to speak, keep your mouth shut." She then ordered the maids to tie her up and send her to the ancestral hall to be locked up with Sulan. Concubine Wen was dragged away unwillingly. Nanny Shen then turned to Yuan King. "Second miss, pay no mind to the words of irrelevant people. The old madam sent me to invite you over. Let's go." Yuan King agreed, and headed to the old madam's courtyard. Master Zhao and Yuan King's mother were also there. The tea house incident was the talk of the town. Old Madame Zhao, who already disliked the dramatic Sulan, was now even more disgusted, having smashed several cups in anger. "The offspring of concubines are always unpresentable. Yuan King, it's a good thing you were there. Otherwise, the Zhao family's face would have been completely ruined by that Sulan. We provide them with the best food and clothing, and this is how they repay the Zhao family?" She then scolded Master Zhao. "And you, eldest son, you have a proper legitimate wife, yet you don't favor her and instead dote on that piece of trash." Being publicly scolded by his elderly mother, Master Zhao, though his heart ached for Sulan who had been stripped bare, didn't dare ask for leniency. "Mother, please don't say that." He quickly changed the subject. "With such an incident, the Qingyuan Marquis estate will definitely break off the engagement with the Fu family. Even though the Fu girl went too far, she still left some leeway. We need to show our sincerity to the Fu family." The old madam hummed in agreement and looked at Yuan King's mother. "Eldest daughter-in-law, tomorrow you will personally visit the Fu family to express our apologies. See what the Fu girl has in mind." Yuan King's mother agreed. After giving all her instructions, the old madam waved her hand, dismissing them. As they left the old madam's courtyard, Yuan King's mother shot Master Zhao a cold glare. "Control your daughter." Master Zhao shot back. "What kind of talk is that? Isn't she—" Before he could finish, Yuan King's mother kicked him sharply in the leg. Even though he had been kicked by his wife many times before, his reaction wasn't fast enough, and he took the blow straight on, crying out in pain. Backing away, he said, "A gentleman uses his words, not his fists." Yuan King's mother rolled her eyes mercilessly. "Mother disciplined them today, so I won't hold it against you. But if you ever insult Yuan King again, I'll pull your tongue out." Master Zhao pleaded on behalf of Concubine Wen. "She was just overwhelmed with anger and spoke some nonsense. There's no need to pull out tongues." Yuan King's mother was furious. "She was cursing my daughter." Seeing his wife's dangerous look, Master Zhao quickly tried to appease her. "She isn't a god, her words won't come true. Don't you believe in those things the least? Be the bigger person and don't hold it against her. My wife is the most magnanimous." Seeing her husband continue to favor his concubine over his wife, Yuan King's mother felt her heart grow even colder toward their marriage. She suddenly laughed. "Words don't come true? Then I curse you to go impotent whenever you're with your concubine Wen. Don't take it seriously, though." With a humph, she said, "Yuan King, let's go." Master Zhao was deeply embarrassed and angry, but he had absolutely no power over his own wife. The tea house scandal spread throughout the capital. Everyone assumed Fu Leli and Shu Su King's engagement would be broken. Unexpectedly, the marriage was finalized. When Yuan King heard the news, she went to confirm it with her mother. "Leli is still willing to marry Shu Su King?" Her mother smiled. "Surprised, aren't you? But Fu Leli is no pushover. She made several demands of the Qingyuan Marquis estate. To secure the marriage and save face, the estate agreed to all of them. She listed the demands. Shu Su King is not allowed to take concubines within the first year of marriage. No concubine is allowed to get pregnant before Layli gives birth to the eldest legitimate son. Upon marrying into the estate, Layli must be given the authority to manage the household, and the betrothal gifts from the estate must be doubled from the original amount. Yuan King could understand Layli's logic. If she didn't marry Shusu King, it would be very difficult for her to marry higher. The position of the Qingyuan marquis heir's wife was the highest status she could reach. Yuan King's mother suddenly changed the subject. Speaking of which, it makes me angry. When I went to apologize, Layli demanded a promise from the Zhao family to be cashed in later. Isn't she just trying to keep the Zhao family tied to her? Yuan King smiled and comforted her mother. Let her be. Layli is scheming. A promise from the Zhao family is her backup plan. However, I doubt this promise of hers will stay hidden for long. Mother, you don't need to worry about it. She can't cause any major waves. Right now, the most important thing is the palace draft. A few days later, the draft officially began. Candidates from all over arrived in the capital. They would stay in the palace for a period to learn the rules before being presented to Emperor Ming-an on the final selection day. Yuan King was also there. Although her stunt with Zhuangli meant it was 99% certain the emperor would pass on her, and this was just a formality, her mother was still deeply worried. What if the emperor went crazy and chose her daughter? Yuan King hugged her mother gently. Don't worry, mother. I'll be back in a few days to keep you company. As the time to enter the palace approached, her mother reluctantly let go, her eyes full of worry, reminding Yuan King to be careful. Yuan King agreed, but she felt no fear. This time, she was walking a completely different path from her past life. In this life, she would absolutely control her own destiny. Entering the palace gates, the nanny in charge of the draft lectured the candidates on the rules. Her words carried a sting, and she glared pointedly at Yuan King. The first thing this nanny must teach you little masters is to speak and act cautiously. This is not the outside world. Whatever habits you had outside must be changed starting today. Yuan King completely ignored the nanny's glare, letting the words go in one ear and out the other. Nanny Li, who had been lecturing enthusiastically, suddenly changed her tone. Stop! Keep your heads down! A grand palanquin procession was approaching from ahead. Sitting on it was the commander of the Eastern Depot, Zhuang Li. Borne by over a dozen eunuchs, the procession rivaled that of the emperor. Nanny Li quickly led the candidates to the side to make way. The candidates, unfamiliar with palace dynamics, were curious. Seeing such a handsome and high-ranking noble filled them with admiration. Terrified that they might offend Zhuang Li, Nanny Li lowered her voice and hissed, "Shut up! Watch your manners!" The candidates immediately fell silent, but they couldn't help stealing glances out of the corner of their eyes. Yuan King kept her head down, trying hard to be invisible. But unexpectedly, just as the procession was about to pass them, Zhuang Li suddenly raised a hand to stop. Yuan King's heart skipped a beat. What is he doing? A second later, Zhuang Li's teasing voice rang in her ears. Second Miss Zhao, what a coincidence. With Zhuang Li addressing her directly, Yuan King had no choice but to curtsy. Greetings, Lord Zhuang. Zhuang Li put on a thoughtful expression. A draft candidate? Second Miss Zhao, why are you among the candidates? Miss, this is quite unkind of you. You previously said you favored me, yet here you are at the draft. Could it be you despise me because I am a eunuch? Feeling the strange looks from the other candidates, Yuan King sighed internally. Why is it so hard to just lay low? She looked up at Zhuang Li and asked with a smile, Does your lordship wish to marry me then? Zhuang Li clicked his tongue. What a sharp tongue. He didn't continue the topic. Glancing at the palace road, he said, Second Miss Zhao is delicately raised, and the road to the Qishu Palace is quite long. Well then, since I've already reached the palace gates, I'll have them carry you the rest of the way lest you hurt your feet. He stepped down from the palanquin and leaned in to whisper in her ear, If you want to team up against that person, you'd better not reject my good intentions. Hearing this, Yuan King felt much more confident in causing trouble. Zhuang Li's actions were a public declaration of their alliance. She gladly accepted his offer. Then I will respectfully accept. Thank you, Lord Zhuang. Zhuang Li, pleased with Yuan King's unpretentious attitude, said, See you later, and left 4 eunuchs behind to carry the palanquin, before departing with the rest of his entourage. Only after Zhuang Li was gone did Nanny Li dare to breathe. Let's keep moving. Yuan King knew Zhuang Li did this on purpose. This move would likely infuriate Emperor Ming-an so much he wouldn't sleep tonight. The walk from the palace gates to the Qishu Palace was long, This would definitely save her some effort. She walked over to the palanquin and was about to sit down when Nanny Li immediately stopped her. "Noble Lady Zhao, the palace has its rules. Please walk with the rest of us." Yuan King wasn't going to indulge her. She retorted, "Why didn't Nanny Li object to Lord Zhuang?" Nanny Li choked. She wouldn't dare cross the powerful, capricious Zhuang Li. But remembering the emperor's instructions, she gathered her courage. "Noble Lady Zhao, this is the imperial palace. Before a rank is bestowed, you are exactly the same as everyone else here, just a lowly candidate." Yuan King laughed. "Nanny Li, I'm not some clueless little girl. Don't lecture me about rules. If you didn't dare offend Lord Zhuang, neither do I. If you can convince Lord Zhuang, I'll naturally walk." Honestly, sitting in this chair feels like sitting on pins and needles. Despite saying it felt like pins and needles, she sat down without a second of hesitation. The look of comfort on her face was unmistakable. Then she looked at Nanny Li with a faux helpless expression. "Why don't you help me out, Nanny Li?" Yuan King was infuriating, and the eunuchs were highly cooperative. As soon as she sat down, they lifted the palanquin, ready to go. Nanny Li was furious, but she couldn't do anything about Yuan King. "You are bringing ruin upon yourself, noble lady. Don't blame this servant for not warning you." Yuan King gave a cold, "Oh, can we go now? The sun is quite strong." The group resumed their march. Everyone was sweating profusely, except for Yuan King, who was comfortably being carried. Glancing at the walking candidates, Yuan King suddenly understood Zhuang Li's arrogant style. Once you hold power, of course you want to make life comfortable for yourself. She was comfortable now, but she had definitely drawn a lot of hate. Candidates from remote areas started whispering, asking their neighbors, "Who is she? Why does she get to sit?" Han Shuyi, the only daughter of the Vice Minister of Justice, had always disliked Yuan King. Seeing a perfect opportunity to ruin her reputation, she didn't miss it. She answered loudly, "The legitimate daughter of the Grand Tutor. Unfortunately, despite coming from a prestigious family, she has no spine. To climb the ranks, she flatters a eunuch. It's a pity Grand Tutor Zhao's proud legacy and the Zhao family's heroic reputation are completely ruined by her." Hearing this, the candidates sneered and mocked Yuan King relentlessly. Reclining in the chair, Yuan King wasn't angry. She simply asked with a smile, "Miss Han, are you tired?" The arrogant Han Shuyi shot her a cold glare. "What is that supposed to mean?" "It seems Miss Han isn't tired. Well, since you aren't tired, I'll ask again later." These people acted high and mighty, but in reality, they coveted Zhuang Li's power. It was just that Zhuang Li never gave them the chance to get close. It was a classic case of sour grapes. Han Shuyi had wanted the candidates to gang up on Yuan Qing, but exposing Yuan Qing's identity had the opposite effect. The candidates became wary, and the whispers died down. Furious, Han Shuyi flicked her sleeve and ignored Yuan Qing. Yuan Qing wasn't going to let it go. It was a hot day, and for these delicate girls, walking so far was miserable. After passing through 5 palace gates, Yuan King leisurely spoke up again. "Miss Han, are you tired?" "Sigh, I feel so embarrassed sitting here all by myself. I'm going to get sick from being so lazy." Wiping sweat from her brow, Han Shuyi glared viciously at Yuan King. "Petty behavior." Yuan King smiled faintly. "Since Miss Han isn't replying, I suppose you aren't tired. I'll ask again later." After 2 more palace gates, Yuan King asked again, "Miss Han, are you tired yet?" Unable to hold back anymore, Han Shuyi roared at Yuan King, "Shut up! I'm tired! Are you satisfied?" Yuan King deliberately slid over, leaving half the seat empty, and patted it. "There's still room here. Do you want to sit with me, Miss Han?" Seeing this, Han Shuyi was tempted. When it was her turn to benefit, all her previous mockery was forgotten. Just as she stepped forward to sit, Yuan King gasped in faux helplessness. "Oh, I forgot. This is a gift from Lord Zhuang. I can't really share it. Miss Han, you'll just have to keep being tired." Han Shuyi was so triggered she looked ready to kill. Watching Han Shuyi seethe with anger but remain completely powerless against her, Yuan King had to admit, this felt pretty great. Even if it was just punishing those who casually slandered others, no wonder Zhuang Li loved messing with people. It drew hatred, yes, but it was fun. She needed to learn more from Zhuang Li. Under Yuan King's silent torture, the group finally arrived at the Qishu Palace. For this draft, 78 candidates had passed the initial selection. Because Yuan King had the highest status, she was given a private room. The others drew lots, sharing rooms of 2 or 4. The crowd dispersed to unpack. It wasn't until evening that the nannies came to remind the candidates to go to the side hall for dinner. Yuan King entered the side hall. Just as she reached for a food box, someone snatched it away before she could touch it. Xuaningyi, flanked by her roommates, looked at Yuan King provocatively. "Miss Zhao, I'll be taking this food box. You can just pick another one." The Zhui family belonged to Emperor Ming-An's faction. Now that Yuan King had sided with Zhuangli, creating a rift between Zhuangli and the emperor, the Shui family naturally opposed her. Yuan King had expected Xuaningyi to cause trouble. She just didn't expect it to be this soon. She wasn't angry, she simply smiled. "No matter. Miss Shui has always been like this. You always think what belongs to others is better. I understand." Ignoring Xuaningyi's stiff expression, she reached for another food box. Seeing this, Xuaningyi quickly shoved the box she held into the hands of a girl next to her and lunged forward to snatch the one Yuan King was eyeing. Yuan King, keeping a close eye on Xuaningyi from her peripheral vision, casually stuck out her foot just as Xuaningyi lunged. Caught off guard, Xuaningyi tripped and smashed headfirst into the table holding the food boxes. The crash was incredibly loud. Yuan King blinked innocently. "Miss Shui, you are too polite. I merely let you have a food box. There was no need for such a grand bow." The other candidates quickly helped Xuaningyi up. Before anyone could speak, Xuaningyi roared, "Zhao Yuan King, you actually dared to trip me!" Before Yuan King could answer, the girls next to Xuaningyi gasped, "Ningyi, your head!" Confused, Xuaningyi asked, "What's wrong with my head?" She reached up to touch her forehead. Looking at her hand, she saw her fingertips were stained with blood. Women valued their appearance, especially draft candidates. If her face was ruined, everything was over. At this point, Xuaningyi completely lost the desire to yell at Yuan King. She immediately told the people around her to fetch Nanny Li and call for a royal physician. The other candidates, deciding Yuan King was not someone to mess with, kept their distance so they wouldn't suffer the same fate. They grabbed their food boxes and quickly left. Yuan King didn't care. When she chose to live life on her own terms, she was prepared to accept all the consequences. She picked up a food box and was about to head back to her room when someone suddenly approached her, greeting her enthusiastically. Yuan King glanced at the newcomer, an unfamiliar girl. Not sensing any malice from her, she didn't mind exchanging a few words. "Who are you?" The girl smiled, her eyes curving like crescent moons. "I am Yun Wei. Miss Zhao, can I be your friend?" Asking to be friends on their very first meeting made it hard not to suspect her motives. But since Yuan King didn't sense any ill intent, she was willing to hear her out. Yun Wei smiled brightly at her. "I just like your personality. I saw everything. Xuaningyi clearly started the trouble, and she got what she deserved. I thought all the girls in the capital were like them. I didn't expect someone like you, Miss Zhao." Hearing this, Yuan King's guard dropped a bit further. She followed up. "Like them? Like what?" Yun Wei answered bluntly, "Pretentious and annoying. If you like something, you like it. If you don't, you don't. Han Shuyi clearly just dislikes you, but she had to drag proud legacy into it. And Xuaningyi was perfectly fine, but she suddenly came over to snatch your things, acting like everyone has to spoil her." Yuan King couldn't help but laugh. "Are all the girls from the border regions this straightforward?" Yun Wei asked curiously. "How did you know I'm from the border?" Looking at this unpretentious and cheerful girl, Yuan King smiled. "Your surname is Yun, and you clearly aren't from the capital. I recall there is a General Yun serving under the Marquis of Qiwei. General Yun's daughter is also participating in this draft." Yun Wei excitedly pointed at herself. "That's me. Miss Zhao, you're so smart." Yuan King was taken aback by Yun Wei's reaction. "Didn't you want to be friends? Just call me Yuan King." Yun Wei happily agreed. "Okay, Yuan King, can I eat dinner in your room with you?" She put on a pitiful expression. "I have bad luck and drew a 4-person room. They are so annoying. Anyway, I can't stand them and feel uncomfortable." Yuan King finally understood. Making friends was the excuse, crashing her private room was the real goal. But since the girl meant no harm, knew right from wrong, and didn't play mind games, having someone to talk to wasn't a bad idea. Yuan King agreed and took Yun Wei back to her room. Yun Wei had no bad intentions toward Yuan King and was quite a chatterbox. During just one meal, Yuan King heard many strange and fascinating tales from the border. As Yun Wei chatted happily, Yuan King listened, passing the time. The two got along remarkably well. The harmonious atmosphere was abruptly shattered when Nanny Li arrived with a group of people. "Noble Lady Zhao, Noble Lady Shui was injured, and she claims it has to do with you. Please come with me." Yuan King knew what was coming. Before she could answer, Yunwei protectively stepped in front of her. It was clearly Xuaningyi who caused trouble first. Seeing this, Nanny Li issued a warning. Noble Lady Yun, do not meddle in other people's business. This is the Imperial Palace. Right and wrong will be decided by the proper authorities. I advise Noble Lady Yun to watch her words. Yunwei wasn't having it. She snorted coldly. I have to watch my words for telling the truth? When Zhui Ningyi was intentionally causing trouble, regardless of right and wrong, and ran off to tattle, why didn't you tell her to watch her words? What? You think you can bully me because I'm from the border? Yuan King couldn't help but laugh out loud. Being friends with this girl was definitely a good idea, but she didn't want Yunwei to get dragged into it. She stood up and patted Yunwei's hand. It's fine. I know what I'm doing. It's getting late. You should go rest. Tomorrow at dinner, you can finish the stories you were telling me. Yunwei was still worried, but Yuan King was perfectly calm. Let's go, Nanny Li. Upon entering the palace, candidates were taught etiquette by a designated gugu, senior palace maid, from the Shangyi Bureau. In addition, there was the managing nanny of the Chichu Palace and a special nanny dispatched by the Empress Dowager. These three jointly managed the candidates. These were the three women Yuan King was about to face. Zhuiningyi's wound wasn't large, just a minor superficial cut that would heal in a few days. But even so, she had a thick white bandage wrapped tightly around her forehead, ensuring everyone knew she was injured. As soon as Yuan King entered, Nanny Zheng, the one sent by the Empress Dowager, who was also Emperor Minggan's former wet nurse, launched her attack. Noble Lady Zhao, Noble Lady Shui has testified that you deliberately caused her injury. Do you confess or not? Yuan King replied simply and clearly, I do not. Hearing this, Xuaningyi asked fiercely, It was obviously you who tripped me. Everyone saw it. Zhao Yuan King, do you not have the guts to admit what you did? Yuan King looked at her slowly. Then how do you explain snatching the food box, Miss Shui? Xuaningyi naturally refused to admit it, arguing, Who snatched your food box? We clearly just wanted the same one, but I happened to be one step faster. Yuan King smiled, twisting the logic right back at her. I also just happened to be standing for a long time and moved my leg. Who would have thought that Miss Shui, who already had a food box, would suddenly lunge forward to grab another one? And you lunged so fast right into my foot. Miss Zhu, your fall actually hurt my foot. Nannies, please consider this. Since Miss Zhu already had a food box, how could I have predicted she would lunge forward again? If she hadn't, who was I supposed to trip? I just wanted to stretch my legs. Everyone knew exactly what had happened. They were just looking for an excuse to punish Yuan King. Nanny Zheng shouted sternly, What a sharp tongue! Now that you've entered the palace, Noble Lady Zhao, you should know your place, understand your limits, and watch your words. Did the Zhao family teach you to injure other candidates and then use clever words to defend yourself? The smile faded from Yuan King's lips. Does this old hag think I'm an easy target? But Yuan King was no longer the soft target she was in her past life. She pushed back without yielding. The Zhao family's rules are not Nanny's concern. However, the Emperor and the Empress Dowager entrusted such an important matter as the draft to you. If Nanny cannot even maintain basic fairness and justice, then I must wonder, are you unable to distinguish black from white, or are you deliberately playing favorites? Though I am merely a subject's daughter, when faced with injustice, I must speak up and demand fairness for myself. Nanny Zheng, used to being flattered because of her status as the Emperor's former wet nurse, turned livid at being directly confronted by Yuan King. Yuan King didn't give her a chance to speak, turning to the other two nannies. It is getting late. I hope you three can reach a conclusion quickly. The two nannies exchanged a glance, weighing the situation in their minds. The matter was simple. Xuaningyi started it. Yuan King retaliated. According to palace rules, both were at fault and both should be punished. But if they only punished Yuan King, she would suffer the consequences later. If they punished both, they would offend both prominent families. Working in the palace, they knew how to protect themselves by playing dumb. Nanny Lin smiled and said, So this was all a misunderstanding. Nanny Wang laughed along. Yes, exactly. Both of you are noble ladies from prestigious families. Your manners and etiquette are top-notch. How could you make such a mistake? I was wondering about it myself, but now I understand. It was just a misunderstanding. Seeing them brush it off, Nanny Zheng angrily protested. What misunderstanding? This is clearly Zhao Yuan King secretly harming another candidate. Yuan King rolled her eyes internally. Emperor Ming'an wasn't favored in his early years, and the wet nurse assigned to him was significantly less intelligent than the other two nannies. She calmly said, "Watch your words," throwing Nanny Jung's own phrase back at her. Nanny Jung stood up in a fury, pointing at Yuan King, but found herself speechless. The other two nannies didn't indulge the slow-witted Nanny Jung. Ignoring her, they smiled and smoothed things over. "Noble ladies, it is late. You should go back and rest. Tomorrow morning you begin learning the rules. Noble Lady Shui is injured, so she may sleep in tomorrow." Yuan King couldn't be bothered with an idiot. She curtsied to the two nannies and turned to leave. Xuaningye did the same. The two exited the side hall one after the other. Xuaningye caught up to Yuan King and said viciously, "I won't let today's incident go so easily." Yuan King glanced at her, casually tossed back an O, and kept walking. Xuaningye was full of rage, but Yuan King's complete lack of reaction made her even more furious and frustrated. She swore that when she found the chance, she would definitely destroy Zhao Yuan King. But Yuan King wasn't afraid. She was no longer the proper rule-bound noble lady of her past life. In this life, she only cared about living comfortably. The events at the Shixiu Palace quickly spread. Emperor Mingan found out, and naturally, Zhuang Li, who controlled the 24 bureaus, heard about it too. Lounging on a daybed, Zhuang Li looked thoughtful. "I never heard the Zhao family's legitimate daughter had such a personality before. I thought she was a woman bound by rules and regulations. I actually quite like this personality of hers." Hearing this, Chen Mo got excited. "Lord, do you want to reconsider?" Zhuang Li was speechless regarding his guard. Why is he always trying to find me a partner? He gave Chen Mo an icy glare that shut him up instantly, then muttered, "Don't the people in the palace know Zhao Yuan King is under my protection? It seems the lesson I gave them last time wasn't enough." Chen Mo thought to himself, wasn't enough? After she went back, the 10th princess was scared sick, and now only dares to hide in her palace. And that wet nurse's backside was beaten to a pulp. She still can't get out of bed. It's not that the lesson wasn't enough, it's just that some people never learn. Zhuang Li suddenly called for his head eunuch, An Sheng. And Sheng hurriedly bowed. "This servant is here. What are your orders, Lord?" Zhuang Li instructed, "Go find out which nanny from the Shangyi Bureau was sent to the Qichu Palace and grease some palms. It makes no sense for her to be fine outside, only to get bullied on our own turf." And Sheng's mouth twitched. Calling the Imperial Palace our own turf is a bit too arrogant, isn't it? But then again, it's not exactly wrong. But Zhuang Li felt that wasn't enough. "We must make sure she lives comfortably and happily in the palace. Understand?" An Sheng quickly replied, "This servant remembers. I will issue the orders shortly." Zhuang Li nodded in satisfaction. Then he added, "Have someone clean my quarters in the palace. I will be staying in the palace tomorrow." Both Chen Mo and An Sheng nodded in astonishment. The Lord is moving back into the palace. This feels like a prelude to something massive. The next morning, 3 young eunuchs appeared outside Yuan King's room, each carrying a food box. "Miss, we are here to deliver breakfast to you." This special service surprised Yuan King. Originally, candidates were supposed to fetch their meals from where they went yesterday. The lead eunuch was incredibly respectful. "We didn't know what you like to eat, miss, so we prepared a bit of everything. Please pick whatever you like. If you don't like any of it, just tell us, and we'll bring something else tomorrow." Yuan King instantly understood. "Did Lord Zhuang send you?" The young eunuch answered with a beaming smile. "Yes, Lord Zhuang said to make sure you live comfortably in the palace, so you feel right at home." Yuan King's expression turned slightly weird. "Right at home? I'm not at the Qiqiu Palace, I'm at Zhuang Li's Eastern Depot." These eunuchs are bold enough to say it, and bold enough to pass the message. They clearly didn't respect Emperor Mingan at all. But as an ally, she couldn't reject Zhuang Li's goodwill. When Yunwei came out and saw this, she was confused. "Yuan King, what are you doing? Is someone delivering breakfast to you?" Yuan King took her hand and nodded. "Yes, we'll eat together." She stepped aside. "Bring it inside." The eunuchs beamed with joy and followed them in. The candidates from the other rooms watched, their eyes wide. What a lavish breakfast! I want to ask my father to send food into the palace too. Xue Ningyi and Han Shuyi also saw this and were consumed with jealousy. "Zhao Yuan King, why do you get special treatment everywhere? Just wait, I won't let you stay arrogant for long." Eating the exquisite breakfast that was even better than the Qichu Palace dinner, Yunwei couldn't contain her curiosity. "This is so good. Yuan King, who exactly sent this? Was it the person who let you ride the palanquin yesterday?" Yuan King didn't hide it. Yes, it was him. Yunwei frowned. I asked around yesterday. Lord Zhuang is the commander of the Eastern Depot. A lot of people are saying bad things about him. Yuan King smiled. He might not be a good person, but he isn't some unforgivably evil monster either. Yunwei shrugged indifferently. Whatever, good person, bad person. All I know is he got me some good food. Yuan Qing grew even fonder of this straightforward, optimistic girl. After breakfast, the two went to the main hall of the Qichu Palace together. Here, the candidates would learn various skills, palace etiquette, and undergo tests of their talents. The first lesson today was palace etiquette, taught by Nanny Wang. This nanny was notoriously strict, dismissing the upbringing the girls received at home and demanding they learn everything her way. But having received Zhuang Li's encouragement that morning, her attitude toward Yuan Qing was incredibly warm and maternal. Noble Lady Zhao, your etiquette is already perfect. There's no need for you to learn. If you're bored, you can just watch. If you get tired, go rest on the side. Yuan Qing wondered, is this part of Zhuang Li's make her feel at home directive? And honestly, her family's training was imparted by nannies who came from the palace anyway. There really was no need to suffer through it again. Since she didn't have to suffer, she gladly thanked Nanny Wang and accepted the preferential treatment. Seeing this, the candidates started whispering. Who is she? You don't know? She's the Grand Tutor's daughter. She rode a palanquin to the Qichu Palace yesterday. I heard she has a very close relationship with the commander of the Eastern Depot, willing to degrade herself for small immediate benefits. It's best not to get too close to her in the future. Hearing these whispers, Yunwei wanted to speak up and defend Yuan Qing, but Yuan Qing stopped her. Since she was reaping the benefits, she didn't care about the gossip. Han Shuyi, full of jealousy and resentment, acted as the instigator. Nanny Wang, we are all candidates. Why doesn't she have to learn? Nanny Wang gave her a dismissive look. Are you telling me how to do my job? Han Shuyi immediately faltered. I am merely asking for your guidance, Nanny. Nanny Wang, completely unbothered by her own blatant favoritism, replied, I've served in the palace for decades. I have my own reasons for how I lead and teach the candidates. If you're dissatisfied, wait until the day you become a true phoenix ruling the inner palace. Then you can decide how candidates are taught. Han Shuyi glared angrily. The Shangyi Bureau places the utmost importance on rules and etiquette. Is this nanny's standard for etiquette? Shui Ningyi chimed in to help. If you can't even maintain basic impartiality, what right do you have to teach us palace rules? Are you teaching us how to flatter the high and trample the low? Nanny Wang looked at Sui Ningyi and suddenly laughed. Flatter the high and trample the low? She walked straight up to Sui Ningyi and slapped her hard across the face. Such impudence! Sui Ningyi clutched her stinging cheek, staring at Nanny Wang in disbelief. My father is the Minister of Personnel. My aunt is Consort Dowager Zhe. You actually dared to hit me? Nanny Wang didn't flinch. Why wouldn't I dare? You are a candidate, and I am the nanny instructing you in etiquette. In the palace, regardless of your background, put away your temper. Otherwise, this absolutely will not be the last slap. Unable to fathom where Nanny Wang's confidence came from, Shui Ningyi threatened. Aren't you afraid I'll complain to Consort Dowager Zhui? Nanny Wang coldly countered the threat. Whether you complain or not is none of my business. But if Noble Lady Zhui wants to see the Emperor, you have to get past me first. If Noble Lady Zhui feels my teaching is inadequate, I can have someone escort you out of the palace right now. That single sentence was like a bucket of ice water pouring over Shui Ningyi. If Nanny Wang truly kicked her out now, she would be disqualified from the draft. By then, even if her aunt, Consort Dowager Shui, wanted to pull strings for her, it would be too late. No matter how furious she was, Shui Ningyi smoothed her expression and curtsied properly to Nanny Wang. Thank you for your instruction, Gugu. Nanny Wang smiled. As long as Noble Lady Shui understands. It was as if their previous confrontation had never happened. Watching from the sidelines, Yuan Qing couldn't help but think of Sulan. Wei Ningyi's reaction was exactly the same. Why do they think everyone has to play along with their fantasies? Finally hit a wall, didn't you? I hope Shui Ningyi truly understands now. A few hours later, the intense training ended. The exhausted candidates quickly paired up to head back to their rooms to rest. Shui Ningyi, still harboring a grudge from her humiliation earlier, saw how comfortable Yuan Qing was and grew even angrier. She muttered viciously, a petty person getting her way. Yuan Qing, who was just about to leave, stopped and turned to look. Seeing Yuan King looking over, Sui Ningyi deliberately spoke sarcastically to the candidate next to her. Some people are so short-sighted. They think they've latched onto a golden nugget, but in the end, it's just a slave. Miss Zhao, I'm not talking about you. Please don't overthink it. Yuan King walked right up to Sui Ningyi and said coldly, pretentious and fake. Having shed the constraints of a proper noble lady, dealing with someone who was cursing her indirectly felt much smoother. Sui Ningyi hadn't realized the danger yet and continued with her veiled insults. Well, I am just a vulgar person. I like being pretentious and fake. Unlike Miss Zhao, who is so noble and unyielding, we really couldn't learn that even if we tried. Yuan King returned the insult without using a single dirty word. Yes, indeed, you couldn't learn it. Everyone wants to climb the ladder to the clouds, but not just anyone can step onto it. For example, Miss Shui, I don't think you can make it. Sui Ningyi immediately mocked back. That also depends on whether the ladder to the clouds is real or fake. Yuan King smiled sweetly. Then Miss Shui should keep her eyes peeled and not choose the wrong ladder. You wouldn't want to lose the wife in the army, ending up with nothing. Sui Ningyi smiled confidently. That is exactly what I wanted to advise Miss Zhao. Hearing this, Yuan King raised her hand and brushed aside Sui Ningyi's hair. Smiling, she said, I haven't been like Miss Shui, injuring my head the moment I entered the palace and getting punished by the gugu. Miss Shui should be careful. This head is the most important thing. If you fall and become an idiot, that would be a great sin on my part. When Yuan King brought up those two incidents, Sui Ningyi couldn't maintain her fake smile. Don't be too smug. I have plenty of ways to deal with you. Yuan King dropped her smile too. She raised her hand. Sui Ningyi instinctively flinched. Yuan King warned her coldly, You've tasted Nanny Wang's slap. Perhaps you'd like to see if someone else's slap tastes the same. Sui Ningyi, this is my final warning. If you provoke me again, I won't just stand here trading sarcastic remarks with you. Angry at her own flinching, Sui Ningyi sneered, At the end of the day, you're only this arrogant because Zhuang Li is backing you up. But what can a eunuch do? Marry you? In the future, I will be a respected imperial consort. Even if Yuan King married well, her status would never be higher than Sui Ningyi's. Just as she felt she had won back some ground, a somewhat shrill voice rang out. Miss Zhu! Everyone turned toward the source of the voice. And Sheng approached slowly, his face dark under everyone's gaze. I heard from afar that Miss Shui seemed to mention our Lord Zhuang's name. What, does Miss Shu feel there is something inappropriate about how Lord Zhuang conducts his affairs? Caught red-handed, Sui Ningyi turned pale. She was brave enough to talk behind his back, but she absolutely didn't dare say it to his face. Yuan King watched silently, looking forward to seeing how Ansheng of the Eastern Depot would deal with Sui Ningyi. Seeing her silence, Ansheng didn't let it go. He pressed further. Is this question very difficult to answer, Miss Xiu? Or does Miss require an audience with Lord Zhuang to answer it? Sui Ningyi quickly backed down, forcing a strained smile. Eunuch An is joking. Lord Zhuang naturally handles his affairs perfectly. I was just joking with Yuan King. And Sheng wasn't going to let her brush it off so easily. I had heard that the young ladies of the Zhui family were the most well-versed in etiquette, but seeing it today, the reputation exceeds the reality. If it is against palace rules for Lord Zhuang to privately meet with candidates, how can you say his affairs are handled perfectly? Yuan King had a profound realization at that moment, like master, like servant. Does everyone from the Eastern Depot act this infuriatingly? Sui Ningyi was trembling with fear now. After all, saying he was perfect was wrong, and saying he wasn't perfect was also wrong. One bad answer, and she could be kicked out of the palace today. Seeing she was sufficiently terrified, Ansheng changed his expression, putting on a smile, and reminded her, Miss Shu, since you are going to enter the palace to become a master, you should learn the rules a bit better. Otherwise, in this man-eating palace, Miss Shu will have a very hard time surviving. Sui Ningyi obediently lowered her head. Thank you for the teaching, Eunuch An. Ansheng gave her a disdainful look, then addressed everyone at the Qishu Palace. We're making this clear today. Miss Zhao is an honored guest of our Eastern Depot. If anyone makes our honored guest unhappy, don't blame the Eastern Depot for showing no mercy. Faced with this threat, the candidates lowered their heads in compliance. Some secretly resented Sui Ningyi's incompetence. She went out of her way to provoke Zhao Yuan King, and now she had dragged everyone else down with her. Ansheng then turned to Yuan King with a fawning, flattering expression, making the other candidates feel even more humiliated. Yuan Qing's feelings were complicated. Her relationship with Zhuang Li was, At most, one of mutual exploitation. Although Zhuangli's actions brought her a lot of trouble, his protection was undeniable. What exactly was Zhuangli thinking? Ansheng escorted Yuan King all the way to the main hall of the 24 bureaus. Zhuangli was staying here while in the palace and was currently waiting for her inside. As Yuan King entered the main hall, she saw a table full of untouched food. Zhuangli sat in the seat of honor, holding a wine cup, taking a sip now and then. When he heard her footsteps, he looked up. "You're here. Palace clothes don't suit you." Yuan King was about to bow when she suddenly heard this comment. She looked bewildered. Why bring that up out of nowhere? Zhuangli didn't explain the sudden remark. He waved her over. Enough, skip the empty formalities. Yuan King felt his gesture was a bit like calling a puppy. But what could she do? He had the power. Pushing those weird thoughts down, she replied, yes, and sat beside him. Zhuangli smiled. The Imperial Palace is pretty boring, isn't it? Our Eastern Depot is much more fun, right? Yuan King looked up at him. Why is she feeling this weird vibe? Is he hinting that the Eastern Depot is better, meaning he is better? Thinking about it, she and Zhuangli didn't really have any personal ties, yet he had been helping her for a while now. Since they had no prior connection, he must want something. But her family background couldn't help Zhuangli at all. Did he want her? The more Yuan King analyzed it, the more likely this guess seemed. Honestly, it wasn't impossible. Are you sleepwalking? Zhuangli was amused by her spaced-out look, especially with her serious expression. What? Why? Yuan King blushed, finding it hard to speak. Even though she didn't mind the idea, she was still a young girl. She shouldn't be the one asking this. Seeing her strange expression, Zhuangli suddenly understood. He reached out and flicked her forehead. Didn't I tell you not to fill your head with inexplicable nonsense? Yuan King didn't want to keep agonizing over it. She just blurted it out. Do you really not intend to make me your fake wife? Mainly, Zhuangli's behavior made it incredibly easy to misunderstand. He was helping her, so he must want something. He didn't want the Zhao family, he didn't want money. What was left but her? Zhuangli originally thought that after explaining it a second time, she wouldn't misunderstand anymore. He had just picked up his chopsticks to grab some food. Hearing her words, he was so shocked he dropped them. Did you take the wrong medicine? Seeing Yuan King staring blankly at him, the more he thought about it, the funnier it got. You are truly interesting. At most, I thought your imagination would lead you to believe I had feelings for you. I didn't expect you to think even more absurdly than me. A fake eunuch wife? Zhao Yuan King? Your brain is really something. Hearing this, Yuan King realized she had guessed wrong and wailed internally. What do I do? This is too embarrassing. Her cheeks burned. She quickly lowered her head, but Zhuangli wasn't going to let her off. He leaned in closer. Tell me, how did you come up with that? Yuan King looked at him, wishing the ground would swallow her whole. Don't you think you're treating me a bit too well? Zhuangli found this hilarious. This is nothing. Anyone in the Eastern Depot who follows me, I protect to some extent. We have some history together, so doing a few insignificant things is considered treating you well. Zhao Yuan King, let me see how this brain of yours is wired. He kept leaning closer as he spoke. Yuan King felt she had lost a lifetime's worth of dignity today, and Zhuangli still had the nerve to laugh, his mouth running nonstop. Out of sheer embarrassment and anger, she blurted out, "Shut up!" and reached out, covering his mouth with her hand. Zhuangli froze instantly. The sensation on his lips caused his thoughts to short-circuit for a second. After doing it, Yuan King suddenly realized it was highly inappropriate. Her face blushed an even deeper shade of red, and she quickly pulled her hand back. Having lived 2 lifetimes, this was the first time she had ever been in such an awkward situation. Flustered, she stood up. It was me being presumptuous. It won't happen again. I won't disturb your lordship any longer. With that, she turned and fled. Zhuangli stared at her back. She has such small feet and takes such small steps. How does it look like she's about to fly away? He raised his hand and touched his own lips. Something felt different. Sheng, guarding the door, was surprised to see Yuan King come out. Miss Zhao, you finished your meal so quickly? Yuan King gathered her wits and gave Sheng a gentle smile. I remembered I had something to attend to, so I took my leave. She continued walking, but internally she was dying of regret. Zhuangli was a eunuch. How could she have thought of that? Thought it and actually asked it and then covered his mouth. She cursed herself internally. 2 lifetimes wasted. and Sheng felt something was weird. Entering the hall, he saw his master with his fingers pressed against his lips. Suppressing his curiosity, he looked away. Lord, why did Miss Zhao leave? Zhuangli slowly lowered his fingers, smiling meaningfully. Embarrassment turned into anger, I suppose. He turned to Ansheng. I told you to treat her well, treating her as a guest. I didn't tell you to treat her like the mistress of the house. And Sheng looked bewildered. Zhuangli continued. You didn't handle this matter properly. He figured since Yuan King said he treated her too well, it obviously couldn't be his own fault. It had to be that his subordinates acted without a sense of boundaries, causing her to misunderstand. And Sheng finally caught on, giving his master a highly judgmental look. He really wanted to ask, My lord, isn't your behavior exactly like treating Miss Zhao as the future mistress? Personally picking her up and even moving back into the palace for her. But looking at Zhuangli's expression, he silently swallowed all his complaints and nodded. Yes, this servant failed in his duties. Zhuangli waved his hand in satisfaction. As long as you know what you did wrong, correct it. Then, noticing the table of food, he ordered. She didn't eat a single bite. Have someone prepare a new portion and send it to the Qichu Palace. Hearing this, Ansheng revealed a knowing smile. This servant will get it done immediately. He was quite curious to see when his master's brain would finally realize what was going on. Meanwhile, Yuan King was almost back at the Qichu Palace, but she was completely out of it. She probably didn't want to see Zhuangli or anyone from the Eastern Depot for a very long time. That thought hadn't been in her head for long before, and Shang caught up with her carrying a food box. Miss Zhao, Lord Zhuang was afraid you would go hungry, so he had this servant bring you some food. Yuan King, who had just managed to calm down, felt that complicated feeling return. Didn't Zhuangli just say that he protects anyone who follows him? Are there so many people in the Eastern Depot and the 24 bureaus that he has to personally make sure each one has eaten their fill? But soon she let it go. Whatever. It's not me overthinking it, it's Zhuangli who has a problem. His thought process is completely beyond normal human comprehension. Once she figured that out, Yuan King felt much better. She proactively took the food box. Thank you, Eunuch An. Please pass on my thanks to Lord Zhuang. She quickly retreated to her room. The food at the Qichu Palace wasn't bad, but it couldn't compare to what Zhuangli sent. Since she had the option, she wasn't going to subject herself to subpar food. Just as she reached her door, she suddenly heard a cough. Yuan King ignored it, pushing the door to enter. Seeing this, the person quickly walked over, pretending to just be passing by, and whispered to Yuan King, Knowing a person's face doesn't mean knowing their heart. Be careful of Yunwei. Yuan King finally looked at this girl who arrived in a hurry and was leaving in a hurry. She recognized her. It was Hao Jungsun, the legitimate second daughter of the Chiwei Marquise estate. In her past life, she had also entered the palace as Emperor Mingan's consort. Interesting. Yuan King naturally didn't naively believe Yunwei was some innocent girl without any schemes. But currently, Yunwei harbored no ill will toward her, so she didn't mind letting her get close. However, Hao Jungsun's warning combined with the fact that both girls were from the border regions, it seemed the grudge between them was not small. But what does it have to do with me? The days of learning in the palace continued. Zhuangli stayed in the palace for one day before moving back to the Eastern Depot. However, the daily food deliveries for Yuan Qing never stopped. Nanny Wang, the etiquette instructor, had clearly been bribed by Zhuangli and took great care of Yuan Qing. Xuaningyi and the others seemed to have learned their lesson and didn't clash with Yuan Qing again. Soon the day of the final selection arrived. The candidates changed into the clothes and jewelry they had prepared. Overnight, the Qichu Palace transformed into a garden of competing flowers. The only difference was Yuan Qing, who still wore no makeup. The candidates were brought to the front of the main hall. A eunuch announced them, and they entered the hall in rows of 5. Yunwei was standing in the row right behind Yuan Qing. Unable to hold back, she whispered, Yuan Qing, are you nervous? Before Yuan Qing could speak, Xuaningyi answered first. What's there to be nervous about? Our emperor has always been understanding. Isn't it already common knowledge that Miss Zhao has someone else in her heart? After running her mouth, she noticed Yuan Qing's gaze, immediately shut her mouth and stared straight ahead, pretending she hadn't said anything. Yunwei glared at Xuaningyi. Yuan Qing, ignore her. Yuan Qing smiled and said nothing. She felt an intense gaze on her. Turning her head, she locked eyes with Hao Jungsun. how Jungsin hadn't expected to meet Yuan King's gaze. She froze, then quickly and nervously looked away. Yuan King felt this Hu Jungsin seemed a bit foolish. Before she could think more about it, the eunuch inside started calling the backgrounds and names of the next 5 candidates, including Yuan King. She let out a small breath, perfected her posture, and stepped through the palace doors with the other 4. Although she was 90% sure she would be eliminated until the final result was announced, she still felt a bit nervous. Sitting above in the hall were the Empress Dowager, Emperor Mingan, and consort Shu Qian Shufei. Yuan King and the other 4 entered and curtsied, then they stood straight to be evaluated. Consort Shu smiled and suggested, "Your Majesty, Miss Feng is pretty and adorable and skilled with the lute. This concubine thinks she would be a good choice. When Your Majesty is stressed, listening to her elegant music would be a wonderful distraction." Emperor Mingan nodded. Beloved consort's words are reasonable. Keep her nameplate and grant her a sachet. As for the remaining candidates, his gaze lingered on Yuan King for a moment. But ultimately, under the pressure, he waved his hand. "Grant them flowers. You may all withdraw." Those who were eliminated looked miserable. Only Yuan King had a visible smile on her face. She had done so much just to get eliminated. Now, her heart was finally at ease. Nanny Wang led the eliminated candidates out of the hall doors and told them to wait a moment until the other eliminated girls returned so they could leave the palace together. Zhuangli arrived right on time. Seeing Yuan King standing outside, he knew she had been eliminated. He chuckled. "You got your wish. You should be happy." Yuan King quickly noticed his presence. Thrilled about being eliminated, she felt the urge to share her joy. Forgetting her previous embarrassment, she walked toward him. Zhuangli teased, My, it seems second Miss Zhao ran out of luck and wasn't chosen." Yuan King nodded, smiling brightly. "Yes, I wasn't chosen?" Infected by her joy, Zhuangli's mood also lifted, but he asked knowingly, "Why so happy about being eliminated?" Yuan King grabbed his restless folding fan, smiling, "Because now that I'm eliminated, I can keep chasing after your lordship." Zhuangli feigned distress. "Now that's a big problem. I'll have to think very carefully about what to do with second Miss Zhao." Yuan King laughed so hard she was trembling. "Then this subject's daughter will await your lordship's decision." Both of them laughed. Since her rebirth, even though everything had gone smoothly, Yuan King hadn't dared to relax for a moment. Until now. Even though the ultimate fates of the Zhao family and the Wei Yuan general's estate hadn't been rewritten yet, she hadn't married Shusu King, she hadn't entered the palace, and she hadn't let Sulan enter either. She had truly changed the beginning. She was free, and she owed a lot of this to Zhuangli's cooperation. She suddenly took a step back and bowed deeply to Zhuangli. "Yuan King sincerely thanks your lordship." Seeing her so solemn, Zhuangli rarely held back his teasing. He smiled and helped her up. "You fought for all of this yourself. It doesn't have much to do with me. The only person you should thank is yourself." Yuan King blinked her large eyes. "Even so, I still must thank your lordship for lending a helping hand. You deserve this bow." Zhuangli went right back to teasing. "If you want to thank me, one bow isn't going to cover it." The serious atmosphere was broken. Yuan King nodded helplessly. "Then how does your lordship want me to thank you?" Zhuangli tapped his fan against his palm, putting on an act. "I'll have to think very carefully about that." Yuan King smiled in agreement. "Then I will wait until your lordship decides. As long as it is within my power, I will definitely do it." As they spoke, another batch of eliminated candidates was brought out by Nanny Wang. Yuan King said, "Nanny is here, I shouldn't linger. Please excuse me, your lordship, I will head back now." Zhuangli watched her walk away without a moment's hesitation, chuckling softly. What a little ingrate. And Sheng heard his master's murmur and sighed internally. Can't bear to watch. It's truly a big deal when someone who's been clueless finally catches feelings. Outside the palace gates, Yuan King's maid Liu Yin saw her come out and hurried over, asking anxiously, "Miss, how did it go?" Yuan King smiled and was about to answer when another voice beat her to it. "Do you think the Imperial Palace is a recycling bin? That just anyone can get in?" Surrounded by a group of selected candidates, Shui Ningyi walked toward Yuan King with a smug look. Yuan King was eager to get home and in too good a mood to bicker. She ignored Shui Ningyi and told Liu Yin, "Let's go back." Seeing this, Shui Ningyi thought Yuan King was trying to run away. As the victor, she naturally had to do everything in her power to kick the loser while she was down. She immediately grabbed Yuan King's arm to stop her from leaving. "Yuan King, what's the rush? Don't be too sad. Even though you weren't chosen this time, who knows, maybe one day the emperor will be in a good mood and call you into the palace. Yuan King looked at Shui Ningyi like she was a psychopath. Did I not make it obvious enough that I didn't want to enter the palace? But Shui Ningyi kept talking to herself, smugly adjusting a gold hairpin in her hair. This is a gift from the Empress Dowager. She said she liked me. I haven't even entered the palace yet, and I'm already receiving such precious gifts. Yuan King, do you think it's inappropriate? Yuan King sighed. She hadn't wanted to deal with anyone, but this person just wouldn't let it go. Anyone can play the passive-aggressive game. Hearing Yuan King sigh, Shui Ningyi thought her words had hurt her. She pressed her advantage, pretending to be apologetic while covering her mouth. Should I not have said that? Yuan King, you just got eliminated, and here I am talking about this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please don't be too sad. Following Shui Ningyi's lead, Yuan King replied insincerely, I'm so sad. I'm incredibly sad. Then she pivoted. It's just that Lord Zhuang spoils me too much. Just a few days in the palace and I've gained weight. Ningyi, how do you maintain your emaciated figure? Lord Zhuang made me fat. I'm just so sad. How am I supposed to lose this weight? Shui Ningyi choked. She thought to herself, is Zhao Yuan King mocking me for starving myself every day for the draft? Yuan King sighed again, feigning melancholy. Lord Zhuang even said I look perfect like this. He doesn't understand a girl's mind at all. Shui Ningyi was furious. Unwilling to be outdone, she retorted, Yuan King, you are a bit chubby. Who knows, maybe you were eliminated today because you ate yourself fat these past few days? Yuan King shook her head, looking at Shui Ningyi with pity. There's nothing I can do. The food at the Eastern Depot is just too good. You've never had it, so you wouldn't understand. One of Shui Ningyi's followers couldn't hold back and snapped, Ningyi is going to be an imperial consort. What good food won't she be able to eat? Miss Zhao, is your vision really that narrow? Yuan Ting laughed brightly. Yes, Ningyi will eat the best. How could the Eastern Depot possibly compare? Shui Ningyi wasn't pleased by this at all. In fact, she was even angrier. When it came to food, the Imperial Palace actually couldn't compare to the Eastern Depot. Everyone knew the luxurious lifestyle Zhuangli lived. She forced a strained smile and changed the subject. Yuan King, you aren't young anymore. Don't just focus on eating. Now that you've been eliminated, you should consider your marriage prospects. Yuan King chuckled. No rush. Isn't it nice being free and unfettered for a few more years? Since I have this freedom, why should I marry early and spend my time fighting with other women in the back courtyard over a man? I'm not stupid. Right, Ningyi. Shui Ningyi lost again. Now she regretted starting this verbal sparring match with Yuan King. She originally came to gloat and show off to the eliminated Yuan King, but ended up getting schooled instead. Shui Ningyi decided a tactical retreat was best. She'd fight Yuan King another day. It's getting late, I'm leaving. My parents are waiting at home for my good news. Watching her retreating figure, Yuan King lightly threw one last dagger. Ningyi, you're entering the palace soon. You should go out and walk around more these next few days. You won't get to see the outside world much after this. Zhu Ningyi scoffed internally. Who cares? What's the use of going out when you have power? But even though she told herself that, it was true she was losing a lot of freedom. Comparing the two, she suddenly felt like she had it much worse than Yuan King. So frustrating. Having successfully chased away her annoyance, Yuan King smiled at Liu Yin. Liu Yin, seeing her young miss win flawlessly and shed her past frustrations, happily helped her into the carriage to return to the Zhao estate. When they arrived at the Zhao estate, Yuan King's mother, her younger sister Yuan Ji, and her already married older sister Yuan Ru were all waiting at the door to welcome her back. As soon as Yuan King stepped out of the carriage, her mother ushered the others forward. Quick, quick, quick! Wash away the bad luck for Yuan King. The sisters coordinated perfectly, one holding a basin of water, the other holding a pomegranate branch. Yuan King had been eliminated, but the Zhao family was celebrating as if they'd won the lottery. If it weren't too awkward, they would have loved to set off firecrackers at the door for 3 days and nights to celebrate with the commoners. Yuan Ru dipped the branch in the water and sprinkled it over Yuan King. Seeing her married sister, Yuan King cheered in surprise. Big sister, you came too? Yuan Ru smiled warmly. I was just so happy for you. Plus, it was a good excuse to come home and see everyone. Yuan Qing's mother smiled and stepped forward, taking Yuan Qing's hand to lead her inside. All right. All the bad luck is gone. Go back, take a bath, and change your clothes. Your grandfather said the whole family will gather in the main courtyard for dinner tonight to celebrate. Yuan King smiled and agreed. She thought to herself, going to the imperial palace is bad luck, and getting eliminated is a cause for celebration. Why didn't I realize in my past life how wonderfully arrogant my family is? That night, the legitimate members of the Zhao family gathered together. Grand Tutor Zhao thought to himself, it's a pity Yuan King's biological brother Zhao Jingxing is missing. He asked, Jingxing has been at the border for a long time. Did he say when he'll be back? Master Zhao quickly replied, when we sent word about Yuan King's draft earlier, he was clamoring to come back. By my calculations, he should arrive in about 7 or 8 days. Grand Tutor Zhao nodded. Good. Once Jingxing is here, our family will truly be complete. At the mention of her brother, Yuan King's hand holding her chopsticks paused slightly. In her past life, her brother went missing on the battlefield, and there was no news of him until she died. In this life, Yuanru noticed her expression and interrupted her thoughts. Yuan King, what are you thinking about? Yuan King snapped out of it, smiling to brush it off. I'm probably just tired from the past few days. Yuanru didn't think much of it and put a piece of food in her bowl. Then rest up. How about coming to stay at my estate for a few days later? It's been a long time since we sisters had a good talk. Before Yuan King could answer, Yuanji chimed in, I want to go too. Who could refuse a beautiful, well-behaved younger sister? Okay. You can come too. Looking at her older sister, Yuan King suddenly thought of her past life again. Her sister's ending was not a good one. To change her sister's fate, perhaps she really did need to visit her in-laws, the Linen Marquis estate. So she happily agreed. Okay, I'll go too. Before heading to the Linen Marquis estate, she had some business to attend to. The next day, dressed as a man, she took Luyin out. She was going to look at shops. From the information Luyin had gathered, she would pick a suitable one to buy. Her goal wasn't just to torment Sulan and Shusu King, that pair of scum. She also needed to protect the Zhao family and her maternal grandfather's Wei Yuan general's estate. That meant becoming enemies with Emperor Mingan. Even if she couldn't drag him off the throne, she had to accumulate enough power to protect her family when danger arose. And the first step to building power was money. Right now, she had 30,000 taels of silver. She planned to use money to make money, turning it into 300,000, then 3,000,000. Yuan King entered a shop and Liu Yin spoke to the manager who came to greet them. I heard your shop is for sale. My young master is here to take a look. The manager immediately put on a welcoming smile. Our shop is in a prime location and it's quite spacious. The storefront is in the front, and there's a small courtyard in the back where people can live. If I wasn't in urgent need of money, I absolutely wouldn't sell it. Yuan King walked around the shop, taking a general look, and shook her head. The location is good, but it's smaller than what I'm looking for. The manager was surprised. Smaller? Young master, the capital isn't like other places. This is considered quite large. If you want something bigger, you'll have to look in the remote corners, and business won't be easy there. Yuan King paused. The manager made a valid point. Manager, what kind of businesses do the two adjacent shops run? Do they have any intention of selling? The manager instantly understood her meaning. Young master wants to merge the shops into one, but the shops here aren't cheap. Seeing potential, Yuan King made her stance clear. Manager, what price are you asking? The manager held up 3 fingers. Young master, how does this price sound? Yuan King smiled. I can consider your price, but if I can't acquire the adjacent shops at the same time, this one won't really suit my needs. I wonder if you could help negotiate with them. The manager thought for a moment and agreed. Young master is straightforward. I'll go test the waters for you. After leaving her contact information, Yuan King left with Liu Yin. Liu Yin asked curiously, Miss, what kind of shop do you want to open that needs to be so big? Yuan King's lips curled up. Rarity makes things valuable. This shop will sell exactly that rarity. While Yuan King was busy preparing for her new shop, she hadn't crossed paths with Zhuangli at all. Meanwhile, at the Eastern Depot, Zhuangli had inexplicably turned into an extreme nitpicker. During lunch, he criticized everything from the dishes to the plates holding them, concluding with, "What is going on with this food? It tastes terrible." He wandered around the Eastern Depot, finding everything displeasing to the eye. So monotonous. Is this a place meant for humans to live? And Sheng followed behind him, having roughly guessed why his usually brilliant master was suddenly acting out over trivial things. He nearly choked on his own saliva, coughing a few times. Hearing the cough, Zhuangli turned his head slightly, his gaze sweeping over. The pressure was intense. Ansheng quickly offered a sycophantic suggestion. Lord, second Miss Zhao has been out of the palace for 2 days now. Would you like to go see her? Sure enough, the moment he finished speaking, his master's terrifying aura instantly softened. Zhuangli put on a profound look. It was just mutual exploitation. Now that the matter is concluded, there is no need for further contact. And Sheng was truly speechless. His master was decisive and incredibly wise in all other matters. How did he suddenly become so hopelessly stubborn in this? At this rate, the Lord would probably stay single for the rest of his life. As the commander's confidant, he naturally had to scheme for his master. He spoke up. Lord, speaking of which, there is something I need to report. It's not a major issue, but it does have a little to do with second Miss Zhao. As expected, Zhuangli, who had been walking away, immediately stopped. Speak. Holding back a stomach full of complaints, and Sheng explained, previously, when second Miss Zhao was in the Chichu Palace, Nanny Wang took extra care of her, which dissatisfied the youngest daughter of the Xue family, who is now the newly appointed Beauty Xue. Nanny Wang taught Beauty Xue a lesson at the time. Zhuangli frowned, puzzled. Since she was already taught a lesson, what is the issue now? Ensheng choked. Second Miss Zhao is fine, but Beauty Xue has an issue. He continued explaining to his master. Beauty Xue went to pay her respects to the Empress Dowager today, and complained that Nanny Wang was playing favorites, being lenient with second Miss Zhao but excessively strict with her. The Empress Dowager was originally going to punish Nanny Wang, but Nanny Wang turned the situation around with a single sentence. The daughter of the Zhao family, knowing she was a candidate for the draft, failed to keep herself pure and was deemed unfit to be a royal bride. As a servant ordered to teach palace rules to the candidates, the Zhao daughter naturally fell outside that category. But little Master Sui, now a beauty, must be strictly disciplined for the sake of the royal family's dignity. If everyone overstepped boundaries based on their own desires, wouldn't the palace rules exist in name only? Xuaningyi hadn't expected Nanny Wang to flip the script with just a few words. She was the one who complained, but somehow it became entirely her fault. Furious internally, she had to humbly admit her mistake on the surface. The Empress Dowager gave her a few words of reprimand, and the matter was dropped. After hearing this, Zhuangli instructed Anxing to send people to look after Nanny Wang. After all, she hadn't let Yuan King suffer. Then, acting like he didn't care at all, he continued walking, saying casually, "Send someone to the Zhao estate to tell her about this." Anxing chuckled and agreed, cursing internally. See? The master just wants to remind second Miss Zhao of his existence, and he still won't admit it. Yuan King knew nothing of this. Right now, she was preparing to go to the Linen Marquise estate with her 6th sister to stay with her older sister for a while. She told Luyan to watch the courtyard and send a message to the Marquis estate if anything happened. After getting into the carriage, she carefully recalled the information about her sister from her past life. The Linen Marquis heir was devoted to her sister, Zhao Yuanru. That was precisely why her grandfather chose him when marrying her off. Even though her sister hadn't produced an heir in the past few years, the heir hadn't taken any concubines, making countless women in the capital envious. But if he truly loved her, why would he divorce her without hesitation the moment the Zhao family fell from grace? Every time Yuan King thought about this, her heart ached. Her trip to the Linen Marquis estate this time was to investigate the situation for her sister. If there was a hidden reason behind the divorce in her past life, she would do everything she could to protect her sister's marriage. But if the Linen Marquis estate had wronged her sister, then there would be scores to settle. She would handle them based on her own abilities. The carriage arrived at the Linian Marquis estate. They were greeted at the door by Hua Yu, her sister's head maid. "Second miss, fourth miss, you've finally arrived. The heir's wife has been talking about you all morning." Yuanji pouted, feigning a complaint. "It's all because second sister is so slow." Yuanqing smiled and glanced at her, then looked at Hua Yu. "Where is my eldest sister?" Hua Yu looked helpless. "The heir's wife originally intended to welcome you personally. Unfortunately, a relative happened to visit the madam's side today, and the madam asked the heir's wife to accompany her in hosting them." Yuan King noted this mentally and asked, "Did the Marquise's wife not know we were coming today?" Seeing Hua Yu hesitate, Yuan King understood immediately. Something fishy was going on. Relatives coming to visit, and she deliberately makes my sister host them right when her own sisters are arriving, sending a maid to greet the Zhao family's daughters. How perfectly arranged. Seeing Yuan King's displeased expression, Hua Yu quickly smiled and changed the subject, asking if they wanted to see the rooms her sister had prepared for them and rest first. Yuan King said, "My eldest sister's arrangements are naturally perfect, but since we are here at the Linen Marquise estate, we must definitely pay our respects to the Marquise's wife." Hua Yu paused for a moment, then smiled. "Of course. This servant will lead the way." Yuan King smiled faintly and followed her into the estate. Normally, with the frequent interactions between in-laws, and this just being a private gathering of the younger generation, there was no strict need to formally greet the elders. But she wanted to see exactly what kind of honored guest was so important that the madam of the house required her daughter-in-law to stay and host, sending only a maid to welcome the Zhao sisters. In the parlor, the Marquis's wife was currently holding the hand of her cousin's daughter, Yang Xuening, beaming with joy. "You've grown so much. You're raised so beautifully. Your name is Xuening, right? It suits you perfectly." She then looked at Yuanru. "Yuanru, Xuening and her mother don't have a place to stay in the capital. They'll be staying at our estate for now. Have someone arrange it later." Yuanru didn't think much of it and smiled in agreement. The Marquis's wife then feigned regret. "Xuening, just stay comfortably at your aunt's house. In a few days, when your cousin has some free time, I'll have him take you around the capital. If only you could stay at your aunt's house forever, how wonderful that would be." She turned to Madame Yang. "Little sister, do you remember when you first gave birth to Xuening? I joked with you about arranging a marriage between her and Haoming. If he could marry Xuening, it would be a blessing for our whole family." Hearing this pointed remark, Yuanru furrowed her brow and cast a light glance at her mother-in-law. Wanting to find another wife for her husband right in front of her face? Her mother-in-law was truly something else. At that moment, a maid entered. "Madam, young madam, the two Miss Zhaos request an audience." Hearing this, Yuanru's smile became much more genuine. "My two sisters have arrived." She stood up and curtsied to the Marquise's wife. "Mother, I have some private matters to discuss with my sisters. Please allow me to excuse myself." A flash of displeasure crossed the Marquis's wife's face, but she said coolly, "Since they're already here, let them come in for a chat. Why are you in such a hurry to leave? Sit down." Yang Xuening clearly noticed the tension. Pretending to be curious, she asked, "Aunt, does sister-in-law have guests?" "Actually, we don't need sister-in-law to keep us company." The Marquis's wife's face lit up with a bright smile facing Yang Xuening. "It's just her sisters from her maiden family coming to stay for a few days. It doesn't matter." Yang Xuening understood. It seemed the Zhao girls didn't hold much weight in the eyes of the Linen Marquise's wife. Since they weren't a threat, she didn't say anything more. Yuan King, holding Yuanji's hand, followed the maid in. With a flat tone, Yuan King gave a brief curtsy. "Greetings, Madam of Linen Marquis." The Marquise's wife put on a fake smile and introduced the Yang mother and daughter. "These two are from the family of Grand Tutor Zhao. This is the legitimate daughter of the first branch, the only granddaughter of the Yuan general. And this is my daughter-in-law's biological sister." Yang Xuening had initially been jealous of Yuan King's background, but seeing the Marquise's wife's attitude, she felt confident. So what if your status is high? You still can't win the favor of the Marquise's wife. She sat still, refusing to move. Madame Yang discreetly tugged at her and shot her a warning glare. Only then did Yang Xuening reluctantly stand up and curtsy to Yuan King, calling out sweetly, Sister Zhao, I am Brother Haoming's childhood friend. We always played together when we were little." Hearing this deliberate comment, Yuanru frowned deeper. It seemed this woman was also intent on stealing her husband. After her rebirth, Yuan King had developed a keen eye for BS. Without hesitation, she mercilessly shot her down. "Miss Yang is too polite. I cannot bear to be called sister by you." Yang Xuening's hypocritical smile froze. Yang Xuening looked pitifully at the Linen Marquis's wife for help. The Marquis's wife felt Yuan King was being extremely disrespectful, but given Yuan King's background, she didn't dare offend her. She could only laugh awkwardly to smooth things over. "Yuan King is just a bit serious. It will be fine once you get to know each other." Yuanru's brow furrowed. It was clearly Yang Xuening who didn't understand the rules and tried to force a connection first. So how did it become her sister's fault? She wasn't about to let anyone bully her sister. Not holding back, she protectively said, "I'm afraid Miss Yang won't have any opportunity to get to know Yuan King." Seeing her sister speak up, turning the Marquise's wife's face dark, Yuan King quickly intervened to smooth things out. Since Madam still has guests, we won't disturb you further. It's just that I haven't had a good talk with eldest sister in a long time, and I wanted to see her. Until I've investigated matters clearly, I don't want eldest sister to ruin her relationship with the Lin and Marquise estate because of me. Hearing this, the Marquise's wife put her trademark smile back on and agreed. Yuanru, you go accompany Yuan King. Suppressing her distaste, Yuanru curtsied to the Marquise's wife. This daughter-in-law takes her leave. Then she left the main courtyard with her two sisters. As soon as the three Zhao sisters left, the Marquise's wife's face instantly turned cold. She cursed internally. "Pah! Who do they think they are?" Then she feigned helplessness, smiling at Madame Yang. The girls from aristocratic families are just like this. Their personalities are a bit arrogant. Please don't take it to heart. Madame Yang smiled. It's fine. It was Xuaning who reached too high. She knew exactly what was going on. She wanted to use the Marquise's wife's affection for her daughter to secure a good marriage through the Lin and Marquise estate's connections. But if it only meant marrying into the estate as a concubine, she wasn't interested. Meanwhile, Yuanru held each sister by the hand and asked with a smile, "Didn't I send Hua Yu to pick you up? Why did you come here?" Yuanqing answered, "We had to observe basic etiquette." Yuanru glared at her. "Do you really think I can't tell you we're just coming to back me up?" Yuan King smiled, hooking her arm, and changed the subject. "What's the deal with those two?" At the mention of this, Yuanru's smile faded slightly. "I've been married into the Marquis estate for 3 years without bearing a child. Of course she's anxious and wants to stuff people into your brother-in-law's courtyard. And now, a childhood friend comes visiting. Look at her, does she seem interested in his opinion? Traveling all this way to the capital, she definitely didn't come just to be a concubine." Yuan King immediately understood. It was mother-in-law versus daughter-in-law conflict. She asked, "What does brother-in-law say?" At the mention of her husband, Yuanru's face lit up with a smile again. "He's not anxious. He said the eldest son should be legitimate. Mother tried to push people on him a few times before, but he sent them all back. Otherwise, she wouldn't have targeted someone she knew. But I'm honestly fine. My mother-in-law does things I don't like sometimes, but my husband treats me well. Besides, I'm a daughter of the Zhao family. How could I let them bully me?" Yuan King believed her sister's words, but the events of her past life were still vivid. She couldn't feel entirely reassured and maintained a serious expression. Yuanru reached out and pinched Yuan King's cheeks. All right, stop frowning. I'm really living well. Tonight, the small kitchen prepared your favorite dishes. Hurry up and come with me." The three sisters, rarely reunited, chatted and joked for a while before returning to Yuanru's courtyard for some girl talk. Just as dinner was served that evening, the heir arrived. Seeing her husband, Yuanru smiled and went to greet him. "You certainly know how to pick your timing. Any later, and we would have started without you." Lin Haoming, accustomed to his wife's teasing, smiled and replied, "Then you should have eaten first. It won't taste good if it gets cold." He then greeted Yuan King and Yuanji. "It's rare for you two to visit, and I don't have much to host you with. Just make yourselves at home. If you need anything, tell your eldest sister." Hearing this, Yuanji asked excitedly, "Brother-in-law, can I sleep with eldest sister tonight?" Lin Haoming shook his head and teased, "That won't do. You can see her during the day, but you have to give her back to me at night." Yuanru's cheeks flushed red. Helplessly slapping his arm, she said, "Go wash your hands." Lin Haoming didn't feel it compromised his dignity as the heir at all. He smiled, agreed, and went. Afterward, he sat beside Yuanru, constantly feeding her favorite dishes just as he always did, showing deep affection. The atmosphere was perfect. Just then, Nanny Wang, who served the Marquis's wife, arrived. "Young master, Madam requests you join her for dinner." The smile on Lin Haoming's face instantly vanished. "Can't you see I'm already eating? Tell her I'll accompany her another day." Hearing this, Nanny Wang didn't back down. She added sycophantically, "The Yang family's daughter from Yinju is here. Madam wants you to go see her. Since you're like brother and sister, you should at least act as a host." Hearing this, Yuan King's already decent mood immediately plummeted. They were both guests, but the Zhao family didn't need entertaining, while the Yang family did. The Marquise's wife's intentions were so blatant she didn't even bother hiding them. Lin Haoming's reaction was even stronger than Yuan King's. He slammed his hand on the table and stood up. "Let her host her own guests. Can't you see I'm hosting the heir's wife's guests?" Nanny Wang was intimidated but still pressed on. The Zhao family girls are in the capital, but Miss Yang and her mother rarely visit. Lin Haoming couldn't suppress his anger anymore. It showed clearly on his face. Can you not understand what I'm saying? Whoever's guest it is, they host them. Don't bring that nonsense here. If mother is still unhappy, let my father go accompany them. She's his wife's guest anyway. Hearing this, Nanny Wang didn't dare insist further and quickly retreated. Yuan King could tell her brother-in-law wasn't acting. He genuinely protected her sister. So why did it end that way in her past life? Perhaps there was a hidden reason. But this mother-in-law conflict seemed far more complicated than her sister made it out to be. After a satisfying meal, Yuanru took her two sisters to the back garden to digest and enjoy the moonlight. After strolling for a bit, she seated them in the central pavilion and instructed Hua Yu to fetch some snacks from the kitchen so they could eat while admiring the view. In the kitchen, Hua Yu was just about to head back with the snacks when a helper approached her holding 2 jugs of wine. I have some peach blossom wine I brewed myself here. Would you like to prepare some for the young ladies? Hua Yu smiled. That sounds wonderful. Please grab some and prepare the warming tools as well. If the ladies enjoy it, there will surely be a reward for you. Yang Xuaning's maid happened to come to the kitchen for pastries and overheard this. As soon as Hua Yu left, she arrogantly ordered the helper, My miss also loves peach blossom wine. Prepare some for her. The helper naturally knew a cousin miss had arrived at the estate, but compared to the daughters of the Zhao family, she really didn't think much of Yang Xuaning. After all, she had put a lot of effort into this peach blossom wine specifically to curry favor with the Zhao girls. She replied coldly, I'm sorry, miss, but I brewed this peach blossom wine myself. This batch is strictly reserved for the most noble ladies. I cannot give it to your master. The maid was furious. Unable to see the flaw in her own attitude, she assumed the helper was just playing favorites. With a cold humph, she went back to tattle to Yang Xuaning. Hearing her maid's report, Yang Xuaning was so angry she nearly smashed her teacup. She ordered her maid to accompany her to the back garden. She was determined to thoroughly discuss the other party today. She was going to drink that peach blossom wine no matter what. When Yang Xuaning and her maid arrived, they could hear the laughter and chatter of the 3 Zhao sisters from afar. She ground her teeth in frustration. Why do they get to laugh and enjoy good food and drinks? Whatever they have, I must have too. Suppressing her emotions, she put on a bright smile and walked toward the pavilion. Sister-in-law, Mrs. Zhao. Yuanru nodded slightly with a flat expression, considering that a greeting, and said nothing more. Seeing this, Yang Xuaning's smile stiffened. Aren't they going to invite me to sit? But remembering her goal, she shamelessly pretended not to notice their unwelcoming attitude. Smiling, she stepped forward and deliberately sniffed the warmed wine on the stone table. Oh, it smells so good. Is this peach blossom wine? Yuan King was quite annoyed by this girl whose eyes were full of calculation. She glanced at Yuanru and Yuanji. Yuan King's sisters blinked. When does Yuan King ever talk nonsense with a straight face? But they silently cooperated, ready to back her up. Hearing Yuan King's denial, Yang Xuaning paused. But it is peach blossom wine. Yuan Qing picked up the wine jug with a very serious expression and said again, This is not peach blossom wine. The smile on Yang Xuaning's face cracked a little more. She forced a stiff smile. It's not peach blossom wine, but it smells just like it. Yuan King said with absolute deadpan seriousness, No, it's not. Why would Miss Yang think this is peach blossom wine? She pointed at a peach on the table. The peach blossoms have all withered by now. Where would the scent of peach blossoms come from? I'm guessing you're just smelling the peach fruit? Yuanji immediately looked up, cooperating perfectly with an earnest expression. It's peach flavor. I just ate one. It was delicious. Yang Xuaning wasn't going to be deterred by this. Instead, she moved to sit in the last empty seat. Then I suppose I smelled wrong. What kind of wine is this? Can I sit down and try some with you? Just as her bottom was about to touch the stool, Yuanru flatly refused. Miss Yang, it's rare for my sisters and me to catch up, and we don't like being disturbed. Miss Yang should go somewhere else. Hearing this, Yang Xuaning immediately stood up, putting on a pitiful expression. She asked tentatively, Sister-in-law, do you not like me? Yuanru had seen plenty of this green tea act and handled it effortlessly. Miss Yang must be joking. This is only the second time we've met. How could we talk about liking or disliking each other? Yuan King spoke up before Yang Xuaning could, slipping in a quiet stab. Miss Yang, you constantly ask people if they like you. Could it be that in the past the people you met didn't like you, which has caused you to ask everyone you meet? Yang Xuaning's fake expression faltered, and she quickly tried to save face. How could that be? I was just asking casually. Yuan King pointed seriously at her head. When a person is sick, the worst thing they can do is hide their illness from the doctor. If Miss Yang really has this tendency, you must find a good doctor to look at it. Yuanji couldn't hold it back and burst out laughing. Second sister has really mastered the art of insulting people without swearing. Yang Xuaning naturally caught Yuan King's sarcastic undertone, and her face turned red with anger. If her status wasn't so low and she couldn't afford to offend the Zhao family, she would have slapped her. Seeing this, Yuanru smiled and smoothed things over. Miss Yang, my sister is spoiled by our family. Sometimes she speaks too freely. Please don't take it to heart. Yang Xuaning's heart was bleeding with hatred, but she still had to say, I won't. Seeing that the girl still wasn't taking the hint to leave, Yuan King smiled at her. Miss Yang, didn't you want to join us? Sit down. I'll explain this hiding illness from the doctor concept to you in detail. Hearing this, and terrified she would die of anger if she stayed, Yang Xuaning waved her hands. No need. I'm perfectly fine. Since sister-in-law and the missus have private matters to discuss, I won't disturb you. With that, she took her maid and stormed off, fuming with anger and jealousy. Why do they have such good family backgrounds? I can't even afford to offend them. It's infuriating. That bitch. After she left, Yuanru looked at Yuan Qing, both amused and exasperated. Yuan Qing, when did you learn how to choke people with your words? You were never like this before. Hearing this, Yuan King paused. Yes, why was she becoming more and more like him? Then she suddenly laughed, probably because he who lies with dogs gets fleas. Intrigued, Yuanru asked, which dog? The image of a certain figure she hadn't seen in a while flashed in Yuan King's mind. Naturally, it's that sharp-tongued commander, Zhuang Li. She gave the answer in her heart, but on the surface, she just smiled playfully and said, I'm not telling. Time flew by, and Yuan King had stayed at the Linan Marquis estate for 6 days. Today, she was preparing to say goodbye and return home. During these days, she noticed that her sister and brother-in-law had a very good relationship. Although the Linan Marquis's wife occasionally caused trouble, with Lin Homing protecting her, Yuanru wasn't a weak pushover, so no major incidents occurred. The divorce in her past life likely had another underlying cause. For now, she could only take things one step at a time. Yang Xuaning was still keeping the Linan Marquis's wife company. Watching her cousin and cousin-in-law look so in love, she felt a stir in her heart. Xuaning sometimes really envies sister-in-law. She was only half telling the truth. What she envied wasn't Yuanru, but the fact that Yuanru had such a good background. The Linan Marquis's wife didn't hide her dislike for her daughter-in-law at all. What's there to envy? She still hasn't produced a child. She turned and took Yang Xuaning's hand, sighing. If only Homing had married you back then. By now, I'd definitely be holding a chubby grandson. Yang Xuaning lowered her head shyly. It's a pity we can't do it all over again. Hearing this, the Linan Marquis's wife gently guided her. The Linan Marquis estate only has Homing as the legitimate son. Homing's first child will undoubtedly be the little master of our estate, the future Marquis. Yang Xuaning's eyes flickered. Originally, she just wanted to use the Linan Marquis estate's connections to find a good marriage. But with her status, even a good marriage wouldn't be that great. The Marquis's wife's words pointed her in a clear direction. Without a good background, how else could she fight for the position of the future Marquis's wife? I am absolutely going to be the commander's wife. After a few days without hearing any updates from his subordinate, Zhuang Li couldn't hold back and asked Ansheng, the last time I had you send word to the Zhao estate regarding Nanny Wang, is there any new information? Ansheng replied, it just so happens that Miss Zhao is not at the Zhao estate. They said she went to visit relatives. Hearing this, Zhuang Li demanded that Ansheng go again today. Ansheng understood. The Lord was missing the Zhao girl. As a trusted confidant, the subordinate had to get things done perfectly. Just as he was about to agree, Chen Mo suddenly popped out, volunteering, Lord, let me go. I'm fast on my feet. Zhuang Li thought for a moment and agreed. Go quickly. Getting permission, Chen Mo vanished in the blink of an eye. And Sheng felt that ever since they met this second Miss Zhao, the people of the Eastern Depot were losing their minds one